All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order at 4 p.m. Okay, it's 4:01. The NVUSD Board of Education is holding a regular board meeting tonight, and we invite participation either remotely or in person. Directions on how to participate via Zoom are available at nvusd.org/board. The open session part of our meeting will begin around 7 p.m. Public comment on closed session items. Before going into closed session, the board is available for public comment on closed session agenda items. Ms. Green, do we have any public comment on closed session agenda items?
There is no public comment on closed session items.
All right, seeing that there are none, the board will now adjourn into closed session. Right, reconvening now to open session. Good evening, my name is David T. Gracia, and this is the Napa Valley Unified School District Board of Education. The NVUSD Board of Education is holding a regular board meeting tonight, and we invite participation either remotely or in person. Directions on how to participate via Zoom are available at nvusd.org/board. Interpretation in Spanish is available for tonight's virtual board meeting. Our interpreters are Isidra Mencos and Paul Huertas. One of the interpreters will now translate the directions on our English channel so our Spanish-speaking families may hear the instructions.
Buenas noches. La reunión de la Junta de Educación del Distrito Escolar de Napa Valley tiene servicios de interpretación simultánea para la reunión de hoy. Para poder acceder a los servicios de interpretación, en breves momentos ustedes van a ver en la parte de abajo de su pantalla de Zoom un icono del globo terráqueo. Pueden hacer clic en ese icono y escoger el idioma Spanish o español. Si ustedes están accediendo al Zoom por el teléfono celular, van a ver en la parte superior derecha de la pantalla de Zoom 3 puntitos y dice More o Más. Pueden hacer clic allá y van a encontrar los servicios de interpretación y podrán escoger Spanish o español. Gracias.
Thank you. Can we please start with an attendance roll call from Vera Morales, Executive Assistant?
Yes, Student Board Member Gomez is absent tonight. Trustee Gracia,
Present.
Trustee Water,
Present.
Trustee Reiser,
Present.
Trustee Shu,
Present.
Trustee Jenkowitz,
Present.
Trustee Hart is absent tonight. Trustee Gonzalez Mares,
Present.
quorum present. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morales. All right. Thank you for joining us tonight at the NVUSD board meeting. E1, report on closed session. Trustee Reiser, do you have a report on closed session items?
Yes, item D2A, personnel. In closed session, the board took action to approve the following staff recommendations effective for the 2023-24 school year. Kate Linneman to the position of principal at West Park Elementary. Ginger Dunn to the position of principal at Willow Elementary. Anne Valerga to the position of principal at Silverado Middle School. Martha Franco to the position of assistant principal at Canyon Oaks Elementary. James Dennis to the position of assistant principal at Napa High School. And for item D2B, public employee discipline, dismissal, release, and assignments, Government Code Section 54956.8. The vote approval was unanimous to release from certificated temporary employment. I don't have the employee number here on the report. I'm just realizing. We voted to release one temporary teacher. I'm sorry, we don't specify. I apologize. And the approval was unanimous.
And I think we're going to give those who were just appointed an opportunity to speak if they so desire. Dr. Musetti?
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for the report, Trustee Reiser, and thank you, President Gracia, for the opportunity to welcome these new leaders into their new positions. Let's start out first with the individual that's online, and I'd like to provide Ms. Kate Linneman, the new principal at West Park, an opportunity to address the board. And we want to officially welcome her to the Napa Valley Unified School District since she is coming new from another school district. So welcome, and Ms. Linneman.
Good evening, trustees. Good evening, Dr. Massetti. Good evening, community members. I'm so honored by this opportunity to serve the West Park community. I'm excited to join the district and learn and develop as a leader. And I'm really looking forward to getting to know all the staff, students, and families of West Park and to meet all of you in person very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining our team and welcome to the NVUSD family. Next, we have also online Ms. Martha Franco, who was appointed to the position of Assistant Principal at Canyon Oaks. Ms. Franco, would you like to address the school board?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, President Garcia, members of the Board of Education, Student Representative Gomez, although he's not there this evening, Dr. Massetti, and members of the Napa Valley Unified School District community. I appreciate the opportunity to express my gratitude to you this evening for the new appointment as the Assistant Principal at Canyon Oaks Elementary. I am excited to be able to serve the Canyon Oaks community alongside Principal Vasquez in American Canyon, and I look forward to being a mighty oak next year and for years to come. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity.
And they are extremely mighty, Ms. Franco. So I see Principal Vasquez is online, and I know she's ecstatic to have a new assistant principal on her team and having you join her. Next, we have here in the boardroom, I'd like to invite Ms. Ginger Dunn, who was just appointed as the new principal at Willow Elementary. I'm a familiar face and great to see you, Ms. Dunn.
I think you need to turn the mic on there. It's on the base.
Oh, there we go. Is that better? Thank you. Good evening, President Gracia, trustees, Dr. Massetti, staff, community members. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm so excited and thrilled to be able to remain at Willow, where I've been the last 3 years, and just to continue to guide us through the next stages of our journey. I have just absolutely fallen in love with the Willow school community while I've been there. We have amazing students, wonderful families, and the most phenomenal staff. And I just am so excited to continue our work next year to bring our students the most amazing school experience possible. Thank you so much.
Great, Ms. Dunn. Thank you. We're so excited to have you step up to the leadership role there at Willow. Next, we're going to have James Dennis, who was just appointed to the new position of assistant principal at Napa High School.
Good evening, President Gracia and Board of Trustees, Superintendent Musetti and cabinet members. First, I'd like to thank the board for the opportunity to join the oldest high school in Napa Valley Unified and one of the most prestigious. Napa High School has a long history of school-wide achievement, and I'm honored to be a part of that continued success. I would also like to thank Dr. Ainsworth and the Napa High School Hiring Committee for allowing me to join their team. I look forward to working with everyone at Napa High School so we can continue growing a culture of belonging and learning. I'd like to thank Jen Cole and the staff at Silverado for hiring me 5 years ago. I've been able to grow my leadership skills and have so many great memories that I will remember in my lifetime. Lastly, I'd like to thank my wife of 22 years for all the love and support. I would not be here today if it wasn't for her. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dennis. Thank you for your service at Silverado Middle School, and welcome to the Napa High Grizzly team alongside Dr. Ainsworth. And last, but certainly not least, it's an old familiar face who's returning back in a new role. We have Miss Anne Villarga, who is appointed this evening as the new principal at Silverado Middle School. I'd like to provide her the opportunity to address the school board.
It's so good to be here tonight. There's so many faces I'm excited to see. Hello. We'll properly connect later, but thank you all so much for giving me this opportunity, an adventure and challenge to lead Silverado Middle School. Silverado, I'm so excited to get to know all of you better. My father-in-law, my children's grandfather, and his brother both went to Silverado in the early 60s when it was brand new. And they have some stories about the shenanigans that went on there that I'm sure don't happen anymore. So having taken the long road back, I feel like I'm coming home in a sense, and it's my pleasure to be here. So thanks to you all.
That's great. Well, welcome back to the NVUSD family. We're thrilled to have you, and we wish you the best of luck at Silverado starting in the fall. All right. I just want to thank the board for always providing opportunity. We really appreciate, we know that here in NVUSD, we like to give a warm welcome to our new leaders who step up into these new roles. And so thank you to the board for allowing us the opportunity and taking the time to do that.
All right, we'll move on to the next item, E2, flag salute. Trustee Riser, will you lead us in the flag salute tonight?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you. E3, this meeting is live streamed and recorded via Zoom and will be archived on the district YouTube channel. For a detailed review of any meeting agenda item, the archive video can be referenced on the district's webpage at nvusd.org. The process for public comment can also be found on the district's webpage. Item E4, approval of the agenda.
I move to approve. Second.
First by trustee Chu, second by trustee Riser. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to E5, approval of minutes. E5A, March 23rd, 2023.
I'll move to approve. Second.
First by trustee Chu, second by trustee Riser. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Approval of minutes for April 11th, 2023.
Move to approve. Second.
First by trustee Chu, second by trustee Riser. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Motion passes. All right. E6, recognition of visitors and employee organizations. Dr. Massetti, do we have any visitors in attendance?
We do. Thank you so much, President Gracia. We have Miss Leslie Walder, President of NAPS, who's here in the boardroom this evening. Miss Walder, would you like to come up and address the school board, please? Thank you.
Well, good evening. It is indeed a pleasure to be here in person, and I thought I wanted to see you on Zoom. So good evening, President Gracia, trustees of the Board of Education, Dr. Musetti, members of the Napa Valley Unified School District Cabinet, and the Napa Valley Unified School District community. I'm Leslie Walder. I'm president of NAPS, and this evening I'm truly pleased to be present. There is so much that is happening this evening. I wanted to acknowledge in brief the appointment of new principals. I was very pleased to see Ms. Ann Valerga appointed to principalship at Silverado Middle School. And in the world of Napa, where there is 2 degrees of separation, if I don't know you, I know somebody who knows you. Ms. Ann Valerga was also one of my son's teachers at New Tech High School. So I'm very, very delighted to know that I'll be there at Silverado with her. Secondly, I was also pleased in speaking with Dr. Musetti last week and then looking at emails that came out today that the district is moving forward with a post hoc analysis of the measure 1A that barely missed passing last fall. I think it's really important that not only do we put our effort into seeing something brought to fruition, but that we recognize that additional work is needed and that we put our money where our students are. So I want to thank the board. I want to thank the district for considering this. Finally, I just want to acknowledge the work that our unit is able to do with Dana Page as Director of Human Resources. She's been able to help us move forward with some new MOUs that benefit the members of our collective bargaining unit. So thank you so much. I'm pleased to be here and I will yield back the mic. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item F, recognition of students of the month. F1, Napa Valley Adult Education. Will Zahid Vargas please present the January student of the month and February student of the month? Mr. Vargas, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, members of the Board of Education. My name is Said Vargas, and I am the instructor of the AST12 program at the Napa Valley Adult Education. The AST12 program teaches parents the basics of how to use technology to support their child in their education, including how to use Eries, Parent Square, and other platforms. The AST12 program offers a variety of workshops and one-on-one support to the Napa Valley Unified School District, Calistoga
Mr.
Unified School District, and Tonalina Unified School District.
Mr. Vargas, there
Yes.
seems to be an echo of maybe translation in the background. Is there a way that you could maybe turn that off?
Or do we have it? Both?
Ms. Green, is that us or is that the participants Zoom?
That's the participant Zoom.
Is there still a feedback?
It sounds better. Thank you. You may continue, Mr. Vargas. Thank you.
I am really proud to introduce Dominga Dueñas as the Student of the Month. Dominga Dueñas is an outstanding student. She started participating in the AST12 technology workshop 4 months ago, and she has shown great confidence in the usage of computer navigation. Before attending the technology workshops, she attended the ESL classes at adult education. Dominga is a dedicated student who is always on time and does not miss class. Dominga shows a strong understanding of the Windows operation system and is expanding her knowledge in learning the essentials of navigation on the internet. In addition to taking classes at the Napa Adult Education, she is involved with the Napa community and helps out with volunteer work at her local church. She has been an excellent role model for her peers and a continuing inspiration for her family and instructors. It is my pleasure to introduce Dominga Dueñas as the Student of the Month. Congratulations, Dominga. She will be giving a speech in Spanish.
Since she will be presenting her speech in Spanish, can we simultaneous? Or I'm sorry, can we have thank you, consecutive translation here in the boardroom?
I'm no longer interpreter.
Paul, you do the consecutive interpretation for Dominga as she speaks. Okay?
Okay, she speaks from Spanish to English, right?
Exactly. Thank you.
Sure.
Adelante, Dominga.
Hola, mi nombre es Dominga Dueñas.
Good evening, my name is Dominga Dueñas.
Hace 4 meses yo empecé a la escuela de
I started
tecnología.
a school 4 months ago, the technology school 4 months ago.
Sinceramente, tenía muchas ganas de aprender, pero yo también tenía mucho miedo y temor.
I was very enthusiastic to learn, but also was afraid.
Me frustraba mucho cuando no entendía nada. Y
I
esta
like
clase
even when
me ha
I didn't
ayudado
understand anything.
a ir perdiendo el miedo y venciendo
I
los temores.
overcome my fears.
Ahora me siento más segura.
Now I feel
Yo les recomiendo que se den la oportunidad a otras
now I
personas.
feel better, and I recommend other people to go through this experience.
El año pasado intenté ir al colegio a aprender el
Last
inglés,
year, I tried to attend a school to learn English,
pero no se pudo por la razón que no sabía usar la computadora.
but it couldn't happen because I didn't know how to use a computer.
Y las clases serían en la computadora.
And all the classes were set to work on the computer.
Si Dios me lo permite un día, voy a volver a intentar
If God allows, I'm gonna try it again
porque sé que se me abrirán muchas oportunidades.
because there will be more opportunities open for me in the future.
Como para hacer el reporte de las horas que trabajo cada semana,
For example, to report the hours I work every week.
necesito usar computadora o el teléfono.
I need to use a computer or a smartphone.
Y fue muy duro para mí eso.
And that was hard for me.
Pero ahora el supervisor me preguntó que dónde estaba aprendiendo.
But now the supervisor asked me, how did I learn to use them?
Y yo le dije, en la escuela de tecnología.
And I told him, at the technology school.
Él me dijo que iba a hablar con otras personas que iban a la oficina
He told me he would talk to somebody else who was going to the office
para decirles de la clase de tecnología.
to let him know about the technology classes.
Les doy las gracias por participar como la estudiante del mes.
I want to thank everybody for naming me the student of the month.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Should start
Mr.
the
Vargas?
interpretation option again.
Yeah, I need the interpretation option again.
If we can use it again, that would be helpful for our next student. Otherwise, I can read his speech in English.
Why
Dr.
don't we
Macetti,
use,
go ahead.
Yeah, let's continue.
thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Continue, por favor.
Okay. Should I continue with the February Student of the Month?
Yes, please.
Okay, good evening. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. My name is Laura Leonard Broll, and I'm the Program Supervisor for Career and Technical Education, CTE, at Napa Valley Adult Education. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. It's my pleasure to introduce to you a student who has successfully completed multiple programs at our school. It's exciting and inspiring to see him transition in order to meet his goals. Manuel received his Spanish GED and graduated last year. He's been taking ESL classes as well and is currently enrolled in our IET class. IET is funded by WIOA, and it stands for Integrated Education and Training. An IET class combines ESL instruction with career training. This IET class is our office assistant training, where students can learn Google Apps and receive industry certificates, such as industry certificates in Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. This is challenging for second language learners, but with hard work and dedication, Manuel will complete the class this summer. Manuel was nominated to be Student of the Month by our career advisor, Cecilia Soriano, who said the following: Manuel Cervantes has been coming to the Student Success Center for various types of support, including class transitions, GED support, and job searching. We can always count on him to walk into the SSC with a contagious smile and energy. On various occasions, we witnessed Manuel study for his GED exams, and in 2022, we celebrated his accomplishment of obtaining his GED certificate. His decision to continue to learn and build his skills have landed him in our office assistant, IET, training, where he is pushing himself even when things are difficult to learn. Manuel is a great example of what it means to be a lifelong learner, and his determination and commitment to his education are inspiring. I received a follow-up to his nomination from our other career advisor, Giovanna Felix, who helped Manuel apply for a job in our school district in the maintenance department. He came to tell the folks in the Career Center all about how his interview had gone, and shortly after that, he returned to tell them that he got the job. Our counselor, Matt Eustace, said, Manuel has really crossed off all our goals for students. It's simply amazing. And I would have to agree that Manuel is amazing as well. Manuel preferred to prepare his thank you in Spanish. So for that reason, he'll be reading it to you in Spanish, but he'll pause for any translation. And it's my pleasure to introduce Manuel Cervantes.
Cervantes, ¿me oye?
Hola, buenas tardes.
Hello, good
Compartir
evening.
con
Un
todos
momento,
ustedes.
señor Cervantes, quiero asegurar que toma pausas para la traductora, por favor.
Sí, gracias.
Ok, gracias.
Hola, buenas tardes. Quiero compartir con todos ustedes
Hello, good afternoon. I want to share with all of you
mi experiencia al estar en la escuela de adultos del Valle de Napa.
my experience attending the school for adults in the Napa Valley.
La escuela me ha brindado muchas oportunidades importantes,
The school has offered me a lot of wonderful opportunities and important opportunities,
como el ir aprendiendo inglés para mejorar la comunicación con la comunidad.
for example, to learn more English so that I can improve my communication with the community.
Me dio la oportunidad de hacer mi GED
It also gave me the opportunity to complete my GED
y seguir mejorando mis habilidades
and to continue improving my skills
y mis conocimientos para ser mejor cada día.
and my knowledge so I could be a better person every day.
Y lo más importante
And the most important
es conocer gente con un corazón y unas ganas de ayudar,
is to meet people that have a big heart and really the desire to help.
enormes. Quiero agradecer a todo el personal que trabaja en la escuela.
And really big desire to help. So I want to thank all the staff that works at the school.
No quiero mencionar a nadie en especial, nada más quiero decirles muchas gracias.
I don't want to mention anybody in particular. I just want to say thank you so much.
Y continúen con esta labor que beneficia a la comunidad.
And continue with this work that benefits the community.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to F2, Napa High School. Will Principal Ainsworth please present the students of the month for Napa High?
All right, good evening, Dr. Musetti, Board of Trustees. Thank you. This is always one of my best nights of the month when I get to come here and present amazing students that represent Napa High. Our first student is Anita Diaz. She's a junior. She carries a 4.35 GPA. She's enrolled in several AP and honors courses. She is an AVID student, so she's a part of our AVID family and already gives back to our AVID family as a freshman AVID tutor. She's involved in our student advisory council of that we met actually today with Miss Reddy and Miss Andrew Jennings. My first introduction to her was actually about 2 months ago. We did a student-led staff meeting where our students actually trained our staff on an AVID collaborative study group strategy. And she deliberately asked to work with the most difficult department, our social studies department. And fearlessly tackled every question, was not fazed by any question or anything, and expertly led them through that training to be prepared to implement that in their classes. So it's with great joy that I get to introduce you to Anita.
Hello, my name is Anita Diaz, and in the Napa Valley Unified School District, I've attended Alta Heights Elementary School. I've attended Napa Valley Independent Studies, and I'm now a current junior at Napa High School. And I've loved every school I've attended, especially Napa High, since I feel as though I've found my voice on campus. It was such a huge leap for me to go from attending an independent studies program to then being a full-time student at Napa High. It was a huge leap and it was really challenging, but I pushed myself to be involved on campus and it really paid off, especially when I joined the AVID program, since I was supported academically and emotionally. I found my friends in the AVID program, and I built a strong relationship with my AVID teacher, Ms. Falsopoulos, who nominated me for this award. And I also found my love for community service, since AVID encourages community service. And I would try to jump at any opportunity I had to volunteer within Napa. And this prompted me to join Key Club, which is a community service club on campus, in my sophomore year. And 1 year later, my junior year, I'm now the president of that community service club, which has to be one of my proudest accomplishments, since I feel as though as humans, we have responsibility to help each other, especially when we're in a fortunate spot in our lives. We should help those who are less fortunate than us, and being able to share that love and that passion for community service has to be one of my proudest moments. It's amazing. And being part of Key Club and AVID, my AVID teacher, Ms. Falsopoulos, recognized my leadership skills and asked me to be an AVID leadership representative. And I had the opportunity to speak at the staff meeting that Dr. Ainsworth heard me at, and he invited me to be part of the Student Advisory Council, which was such a great honor as well. And our assistant principal at Napa High, Ms. Lawton, also invited me to be part of student staff roundtable meetings. And those three things, being an AVID leadership representative, being a student advisory council member, and being a participant in student staff roundtable meetings, it's been amazing to be able to share my thoughts and for the school to be able to hear my voice. And I felt so honored that so many staff, so many adults on campus see potential in me and believe that my voice should be heard. And I love being a student at Napa High. I'm proud to be a student at Napa High, and I'm very honored to be Napa High's NVUSD Board Student of the Month for the month of March. And I, of course, thank the school board. I thank Dr. Ainsworth, Ms. Lawton, my AVID teacher, Ms. Falsopoulos, and every teacher I've had since kindergarten, as all have contributed to my educational journey. And I, of course, thank my parents for working hard to provide for my siblings and I, and for creating such a loving and safe environment for me to grow into the young woman I am proud to be today. Thank you all.
Phenomenal student this month is Ryan O'Toole. Ryan is highly involved on campus. He has a 4.63 GPA. He's involved in the jazz band, our performing band, on top of several AP and honors courses. And Ryan is also an academic tutor for one of our SDC English classes with Miss Ladonia, and he participates in varsity tennis. So I get the joy of introducing you to Ryan.
Go ahead, Ryan. It looks like you're unmuted now.
Hello, my name is I'm going to share and it's an honor to ensure as any student of the month. I could please just say that I've come with you. Not just as a video, but also as a person. I've been able to challenge myself a lot of times.
Ryan, if you can hear me, we can't hear you. Can you turn your video off? Maybe the audio will work.
Hello, can you hear me?
It's a little better.
Sorry about that.
Give it a try.
Yeah. Okay. Hello, my name is Ryan O'Toole. I'm currently a junior at high school, and it's an honor to be an NVUSD student. I'm very excited to come a long way, not just as a person. I've been able to myself a lot the past few years.
Ryan, I'm sorry, it's not. I think that your internet. Right, Ryan, it's not working. The internet connection is not working.
Dr. Ainsworth, do you have his number? Okay, let's see. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan, Dr. Ainsworth says he has your speech and he's going to read it to us. Unfortunately, the audio was just not working for you.
All right. And I will forward this to you guys as well for you to read. Hello, my name is Ryan O'Toole. I am currently a junior at Napa High School, and it's an honor to have been chosen as an NVUSD Student of the Month. I'm very pleased to say that I've come a long way since the beginning of my high school experience, not just as a student, but as a person. I've been able to challenge myself a lot over the past few years, trying new things that previously would never have been, I would never have attempted. This accomplishment means a lot to me, as all my hard work and dedication has paid off for some incredible recognition. I would like to thank my parents for making me who I am today, and to my teachers who have helped guide me through my educational journey. I'd also like to give a big appreciation to my academic tutoring teacher, Mrs. Ladonia, for nominating me into this position, and the entire NVUSD school district for everything they have done, and for the free ticket to Bottle Rock. Throughout my high school experience, I've challenged myself with many difficult classes. I've come to enjoy these classes as my hard work always seems to pay off in the end. Along with that, I have spent lots of my time enjoying many extracurricular activities. Being active with sports and music at Napa High School is very important to me and has become some of my greatest passions in life. Along with that, I've contributed countless hours of service to the community, such as volunteering at the library and helping tutor other students. To me, it always feels good to help out the community in one way or another, and it's something I will always continue to do. Now, finally, I realized that soon I will be applying to colleges, and I'm very excited to see what my future holds. Currently, my major is still undecided, though I do have a few ideas in mind. Yet wherever I go, I know that Napa High has helped push me into that position, and it's something that I'm very grateful for. With that, I want to say thank you again to anybody who has left a positive impact on my life, and to all of you for listening to my speech. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're on to G, public comment on non-agenda items. Trustee Riser, did we receive any public comment on non-agenda items via email?
We received no public comment on non-agenda items by email before 8 a.m.
Thank you. We do have some public comment in the boardroom. First, I would like to call up Norma Ortiz.
Hola, buenas tardes a la mesa directiva y a todos los presentes. Mi nombre es Norma Ortiz, estudiante de la secundaria Redwood. Hi, good afternoon, NVUSD Board of Education and the public in general. My name is Norma Ortiz, a Redwood Middle School student. Le quiero dar las gracias a mis maestros y a mi director, Mr. Hartnett. I would like to thank my teachers and our school principal, Mr. Hartnett. Pasando lo siguiente, therefore, I wanted to share that you are invited to our English Language Learner Celebration and Resource Fair. Ustedes están invitadas a la celebración de nuestros estudiantes aprendices de inglés y feria de recursos. There's going to be an essay and art contest for all Redwood Middle School students. Vamos a tener un concurso de expresión artística para todos los estudiantes de Redwood. Y el evento va a ser el 5 de mayo. The event will be on May 5th. And the day to turn in your essay or your art will be May 3rd. Y el día para entregar el arte o el ensayo va a ser el 3 de mayo. Also, I would like to say that I really like my school, Redwood Middle School, and I'm really proud to be at that school. And I wanted to share that I'm in math 1, so the teachers were talking about switching the program, and right now we're doing Canvas Easy Bridge, and I really like that program because it's really helpful if we have to do tests, and there's like buttons at the bottom that says we can like ask our instructor or do an example, and my favorite is help me solve this. So if whenever I'm stuck on a math problem, I could always go there and there'll be like videos about the equation, and like it feels like a teacher's at my house showing it to me. And I really, really like the program. And I would really like to keep that program because I really feel like it's really good, and it definitely helps me like maintain my good grade in that class. And it helps me like get A's on all my tests because I can always study on there, and it's really helpful. So I really like you guys to consider keeping Canvas, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and our next public comment is by Norma Ortiz.
Hello, good evening, Board of Education, Dr. Massetti, and all the people that are present. I just wanted to share some feedback and some surveys that were conducted back in February 1st of this year in our ELAC meeting. And I think it's helpful that the board considers this information. So I asked both students and parents in an anonymous way, what electives would you like to see offered at middle schools and high schools? And the student responded, I would like to see Spanish classes added, music classes, and classes to be offered at middle schools and high schools like gardening. What is your favorite subject at school and why? My favorite subject at school is music class because when I was little, I used to get my mom's pans and spoons and pretend that I was playing a drum. What subject areas might be challenging to you at this time? Reading and writing. What do you do to prepare for district and state test? A couple of things. I do prepare for district and state test is Sunday is to have some days to study, and if teachers let me chew gum to keep calm. Also, if I'm stressing in a problem in the test, I'll take a little break and do some breathing exercises. And regarding to that, another student said cooking classes, how to do taxes, interesting. What is your favorite subject at school at why? Science, because it's easy. What subject area might be challenging for you at this time? ELA and math. What do you do to prepare for district and state tests? Write and read. Another student mentioned art or cooking for the first response. The second response, what class do they like and enjoy the most and why? Art because it's fun and relaxing. What subject areas might be challenging to you at this time? Math. For parents, I asked in Spanish, and I'll do the translation. ¿Qué podemos hacer para ayudar mejor a su estudiante a nivel local y de distrito? Ayudarle para que pueda aprender mejor y resolver los problemas de las materias. 2. ¿Qué desafíos académicos podría tener su estudiante en este momento? Leer, escribir y las matemáticas. Áreas de crecimiento estudiantil, inglés y matemáticas. So what can you do to better support your student, local and district level? What academic challenges might your student have at this time? And 3 areas of student growth. First response, help them so he could learn better and solve problems like in all the subject areas. 2, read, write, and math. And 3, English and math. To be continued.
Thank you. All right. Ms. Green, do we have any public comment online?
Yes, Julie Garion, please go ahead.
Julie,
Hi,
can
sorry,
you?
I just realized I was on mute. I apologize. Hello, board members, and Dr. Musetti, thank you for giving us the time. I just wanted to call attention to the fact that the CASP test at the high school, at least at Vintage, I don't know if it's the same at Napa, was currently given in the spring this year, very close to AP exams. As the students are already pressed to finish the AP material in time for the exams, this seems to not be a wise use of their time. I understand it is possible for students to opt out through parent permission, but I recognize that the district would like to have the data provided by the exam. However, there is a big conflict, especially at this time of year, particularly in the science and math, which really requires teacher-driven instruction. So I would respectfully request that this be something that is brought up to the principals of the schools. I'm not sure who governs at what point in the school year the exams are given, but I would appreciate it if this was something that you would consider. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Garion, I hear your comment, and I will discuss this with our data services team and how they're working with principals around scheduling exams. Thank you very much for your input.
Ms. Green, do we have further public comment?
There is no additional public comment.
Thank you. All right, we'll now move on to item H, reports. Item H1, Board of Education and Student Representative. Ms. Trustee Gonzalez Maris, would you like to start us?
Sure, I'll go first. Although I'm already missing our student board rep Gomez's report. He always has really important items to share with us. I was just commenting, I think, to Trustee Chu that it doesn't feel like our last business meeting was in March because we've been having lots of activities in between. So I'll just briefly run through them, and it's just a way to say thank you for the time that Principal Title took with me at my site visit at Bel Air. Beautiful, sunny, shiny day. And then it rained. Not just rained, it poured during my visit at Shear Elementary School. So 2 different days and 2 different energies with the kiddos. But nonetheless, I got to walk through the classrooms and experience a little bit of everything that was happening throughout the day. So I just want to thank you for your time. Also, I had the great pleasure, and today I received just lovely thank you. So just thank you to the Avid class at Vintage High School, Ms. Housley and Ms. Koska, for allowing me to speak to the students in regards to my experience in terms of my career, my time here at the school district, and how and what I'm up to now. So it was a good group. You're not quite sure sometimes if they're capturing what you're saying. But I did have some good questions just because I'm not in front of kids as in my day-to-day. But because I was looking at them and I felt like I was looking at my 15-year-old niece like, But their thank you cards are so lovely. I just read them right now and it just filled my heart. I think I'm emotional with all the Student of the Month stuff. So just thank you so much. I really appreciate the warm welcome and the opportunity to speak with the students. In addition, we had some other business to attend, special board meetings, and a great one-on-one conversation with our superintendent, Dr. Musetti, as we discuss governance and implementation. And later on, you will see in the minutes our minutes in our participation of the policy committee. And I don't want to forget anything else. And I just want to thank Student of the Month, Anita Diaz from NHS. it makes me think of all of our students of the month should apply for student board rep positions at least, right? For those who are juniors. So that's just something to encourage them as a follow-up of your award and recognition. And hey, by the way, let's just flip you the application for next year. So anyways, just thank you so much for everybody's time to continue to be present, not just in the boardroom, but in the schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Jankowicz.
Thank you. I had coffee with a previous board member, Joe Shunk, and current trustee Cindy Water to discuss educational legislation. I had met with Carol Guthrie, a board member of 10,000 Degrees, which is a nationally recognized leader in supporting students from low-income backgrounds to and through college and beyond. And then the ED of the organization has already met with Dr. Musetti, Assistant Superintendent Andrew Jennings, and Director Reddy. I attended the NCOE board meeting via Zoom. I shadowed Jackie Clayton at Harvest Middle School, the head custodian, and I commend our custodial staff. They work exceptionally hard and care deeply about our students. I'd like to share a quote from Jackie that she shared during the evening, because I thought it was great. She said, "I wish our facilities reflected how deeply we care about them. We understand the importance of our facilities in the education and the lives of our students." Thought that was a great quote. I attended the coffee with the superintendent at NVLA. I had a Zoom meeting with the JCRC, the Jewish Community Relations Council. They just put up on their website really interesting resources, reading lists, lesson plans, and other resources. If you're interested, it is Jewish Heritage Month. Dr. Musetti and I met with Blue Oak School to discuss the community importance of education and the importance of educational collaboration. I too attended the special meeting. I too had two wonderful school visits, Donaldson Way Elementary and Napa Junction Elementary. There's so much care given to students at both schools, and I was fortunate enough to be at the Napa Junction site when Caitlin Nesbitt was honored and surprised as the NCOE Teacher of the Year. I met with the Sonoma Valley Board President, and we discussed education post-COVID and the importance of governance and governance training. I want to congratulate and celebrate American Canyon Percussion Championship and appreciate the decathlon team, and I will let Trustee Chu elaborate. As the new CBSA delegate to Napa County, I sent out an introductory letter and encouraged each one of the districts within our county to communicate with me to express their legislative needs. I will provide consistent communication regarding the work of CSBA. I attended the Ethnic Studies Community Session on the 18th. Sorry, I'm going really quickly. Trustee Reiser and I went to the CSBA and AXA for the second annual Coast to Coast Federal Advocacy trip to Washington, D.C. As our communications team shared this morning, we spent our first day learning about the issues affecting our nation's students before we attended meetings on Capitol Hill. We as a collective force were there to advocate for directly with California congressional representatives. We had interaction with White House officials, lobbyists, political researchers, and analysts. Sam Steen was brilliant. Key federal agency leaders and other top policymakers. We as board members represent the national voice for public education and the state voice, and we discuss the impact of federal policy at the state and local levels. Trustee Reiser will speak to the key issues that the delegate brought forth, but in addition, we advocated for facilities funding. The last time the Fed funded infrastructure and facilities was 1935. They did add education as a footnote in the proposed current infrastructure bill, but I believe there needs to be more legislative support for greater funding, equity, and need. This issue requires more status than a footnote hidden under roads, bridges, and water. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Trustee Chu.
Oh, and I got little thank you notes from reading. What should I thank you notes? Okay.
So it was a busy month with a lot of community engagements, but I visited ACHS with NCOE trustee Cindy Biederman on the 21st of April. And because trustee Biederman was with us, I took the opportunity to go and visit our CTE programs and see all the kids busy doing all of that great work. Saw some electrical walls. I had no idea what it looked like on the inside. So that was great. And I got to taste some of the culinary class creations. So that was really fun. Thank you to Principal Lopez for hosting. A lot of communications, as I mentioned, and listening opportunities. On the 27th of March, I just sat in on the Special Education Family Parent Advisory Committee. That's always informative to hear parents' thoughts, especially in the special ed realm which one of my children kind of live in as well. On the 28th, I had two opportunities to meet NASA astronaut Kate Rubin, first at Vintage High in the morning with the Vintage students. And also, I guess it was streamed to a lot of classrooms. And that was really insightful. A lot of the students had wonderful questions. One that asked, what does it feel like to be a woman in such a high profile career? So that was like, wow, okay. They're really, engaging on that level, which is wonderful. And then in the evening, I attended her talk at Napa Valley College along with Trustee Reiser and to the broader community. And that was also equally as engaging because we saw a lot of little kids that got to interact with her, one that even dressed up as a NASA astronaut. So that was wonderful. And on the 18th of April, I had a meeting with Napa Climate Now advocate Jim Wilson, along with Assistant Superintendent Mike Pearson, to discuss how the district can move on looking at energy efficiency. And I know that after that, I communicated that we had a few board agenda items today, and he's very happy to see all those coming through. On the 19th, I had an opportunity to listen on some parent engagement of the future ethnic studies and health course at ACMS. That's always insightful. Anytime you can listen to parents. But on that same night, I spent a lot of hours at ACMS that evening because I have an incoming 6th grader. So I got to attend the orientation and open house right after. And I will say that a lot of the 6th grade parents were very enamored by the new look of that campus. A lot of them had older students that went through when it looked very different. So they were very happy to see that change. And on the 22nd, this past weekend, I attended the Canyon Oaks Spring Arts Festival and Alps Showcase that I think we're going to talk about later. And I'll put my input later, but it was a wonderful experience. And as Trustee Jankowicz said, I will talk a little bit about the academic decathlon team from ACHS. I actually got to chaperone them for an entire weekend. It's very interesting chaperoning high school students because they're so much more independent than little ones that I've chaperoned in the past, and overnight trips are quite interesting. It's interesting to kind of have to let go a little. But I do want to report that they did really well for a team that is a club, kind of activity where a lot of other schools have it as an actual class. So they brought home a gold in math in the honors division, a silver in music in the scholastic division, silver in interview in the scholastic division, a bronze in speech in the scholastic division. And they also got a gold for the highest overall scoring teammate at ACHS as well. So kudos to them for doing so well academically. And I think, anytime we can hear anything great academically coming out of any of our students, I think it's worthy of praise and highlights. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Trustee Reiser?
You. I will be as expedient as possible. I also attended the Napa Valley College event for Dr. Kate Rubin and was just thrilled to, in particular, see the young kids in the audience being inspired and just seeing that, hey, if an NVUSD alum who I don't remember her elementary school, but I know she went to Redwood and Vintage can get chosen to the elite team of astronauts and NASA, then why not? Why not me? So really grateful to her for coming back and sharing her experiences and motivating our kids. I attended the coffee with the superintendent at NVLA on the 11th. I actually on the 18th and 19th, I went to both community information sessions, first in Napa and then in American Canyon, about explaining to the community about our new graduation requirements around the health and ethnic studies courses and giving an introduction. Assistant Superintendent Andrew Jennings and Director Reddy, and also Kelly Miller, our academic specialist, did a great job explaining that process and taking kind of initial questions and concerns from the community and from parents. So it's always, I always appreciate the opportunity to hear from the community in those sort of structured forums. I attended also the Curriculum and Student Support Board Advisory Committee on the April 19th. Attended the ACMS open house as well with Trustee Chu. April 20th was our Policy Committee Board Advisory meeting. And then before I get into the coast to coast quick rundown, I will mention that this Saturday, I will gleefully be in San Francisco at the Palace of Fine Arts to hear Napa High's vocal music workshop participate in the Harmony Sweepstakes, which is an all a cappella show competition that I attended 30 years ago with a friend because I like a cappella music. And now I'm coming full circle and I'll get to hear my daughter Maya and her classmates, or her group mates rather, peers perform. So we wish them luck, and there still are tickets available, I believe, if anyone else is an a cappella fan. Okay, so I was really grateful for the opportunity that the district afforded me and Trustee Jankowicz to attend the Coast to Coast. It was the conference that we just returned from yesterday. We often bump up against our frustration with the limitations of our funding, both from the state and the federal government. And really the way to do something about that is to empower yourself as an advocate, and also to educate the lawmakers about the issues. Because if we don't ask and they don't understand, nothing is going to change. So that sort of in a nutshell was the theory of action around this conference. It was our state school board association, CSBA, partnered with AXA, which is the Association of California School Administrators. So that's a pretty powerful synergistic partnership there. This is only the second year they've done this conference, so it's sort of a newish effort that they're building. But it's really, I think, the only way we are going to change our state and national priorities and funding priorities around education. So I was really happy to be a part of that. Building our presence in Washington as an advocacy group takes time. It takes relationship building, and it takes numbers. So it was really great to be, I think there were about 280 of us, school board trustees and superintendents gathered. And we were able to hear from to make our presence known and hear from the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Becerra, as well as the Assistant Secretary of Education, Dr. James Lane, came and spoke with us. And then we had really important advocacy training sessions around the issues that CSBA had identified as priorities where, not to just do a basic analysis of it, the more that we can get the federal government to fund, the more of our state funding we have in the general fund available for other programming. So even though the majority of our funding comes from the state level, the more advocacy that we can do and the more success we can have in getting the federal government to support us in ways that are appropriate for the federal government to be funding, the more it frees up for us in our budget, in our general fund. So that's sort of the idea. And I won't go through every issue, but just a quick rundown of some of the main issues that we were educated about and then charged with educating our lawmakers about. Really wanting to drive home the need. We talk a lot here about the labor shortage, the national crisis that we are in the middle of, and that is, forecast to get worse before it gets better. So really wanting to educate our federal lawmakers about how they can help with that. Talking about, it's not really going to get better until we can pay teachers more. And also how can we get the federal government to help us in recruiting efforts? there was something related to that labor shortage that doesn't at first seem obvious, but there is a penalty for people to make a mid-career switch. So if they were working in the private sector and paying into Social Security, there is right now a big financial penalty. You have to give up your Social Security or a percentage of that in order to begin paying into STRS, which is the state teacher retirement system. So this is a huge obstacle for us recruiting people into the field. And we are advocating at the federal level to have that removed because it makes no sense. So that was a big one. There was another really big one about raising the funding level for special ed at the federal level when we had basically a mandate, a federal mandate around special education, and the Congress at the time that it was passed said that they would fund 40% of that effort, and they have never funded anywhere close to 40% of that effort. So again, going back to that idea of because a large amount of our special education funding has to come from our local and state funding, if the federal government would step in and actually fund at the 40% level, that would free up a lot of resources for us, both to additionally support our special education students and to perhaps redistribute some of our general fund money in that way. Another big one was to push for a permanent increase in federal reimbursement for our universal meal program to 45 cents per meal. That would make an enormous impact in the amount of funding we have for our meals. And that's in particular important because of the high cost of food and our supply chain shortages. And also looking at changing the eligibility, expanding the eligibility for those meals. And one thing that I thought was really interesting that they're advocating for at the federal level is it's called regional indexing. We cannot have a flat income requirement as the ruler by which we decide who qualifies, because the cost of living is variable. So you might meet the requirement in a certain state where the cost of living is different, but we want to factor in the cost of living in the region when considering, so that will expand the eligibility and allow us to support and feed more of our kids. That was called the Healthy Meals Help Kids Learn Act, which I thought was a pretty good name. And another push was for increasing funding for mental health services at the federal level. So there were others that were specific to rural districts. There were things around cybersecurity and data protection, but just to illustrate a really wide variety of ways in which the federal government can help us and can support us, even though our funding model has the majority of money coming from the state. So it was a great opportunity, and I hope that is an effort that continues and reaps rewards for us in our resources to serve our kids.
Thank you. Trustee Water.
Thank you. Well, lots of community engagement the last few weeks. And let's see, this is in no particular order. I went by Snow School because the children had written me a thank you note. And so I took copies of some of the books they enjoyed having read to them to the classes I'd visited. And then I also tuned into the NCOE meeting. Listen to that. That was interesting. Let's see, I think it was on the 10th. I went by Congregation Beth Shalom, and it was Holocaust Remembrance Day. And I thought I'd go out and represent in light of the fact that we have some people who are expressing themselves in antisocial ways, expressing anti-Semitism in our community. And then on the 18th, I went to the Ethnic Studies, sort of a preliminary rollout. And I really would like to thank Assistant Superintendent Andrew Jennings, Director Monica Reddy, and Kelly Miller for the wonderful presentation. It was, fascinating and very well received, I think, by the parents in the room. And let's see. Oh, I had so much fun last week. I went to Alta Heights Elementary School to Mrs. Gracia's class. She was not there, but her control is such that her class was very well behaved with Ms. Boudreau as the substitute teacher. And I put on a compost workshop, one of my glamorous sidelines. And the kids were great. Every they kept coming up saying, how may I help you, Mrs. Water? And let me tell you, I don't get a lot of that in my life. I mean, I told someone it was like they'd all gone to charm school, or, they had just great manners. It was just a nice little group. A little boy named Elijah helped carry my stuff back. It was great. And then on Saturday night, I went to the Napa High School Blue and Gold Boosters Dinner, and it was so much fun. And I was very tired. And the minute I showed up, I was glad I went, because I saw all kinds of people I used to work with. And it was Darcy Ward Lewis that was, and Derek Moore ran around and did a wonderful job. And a lot of people were dressed up in 1920s costumes, and it was a bunch of fun. And Derek imitated Bruce Springsteen, and I think it was a success. It was a sellout, and I think they made some money. Thank you to the community for supporting this. And then on the 19th, I went to the Napa Climate Now meeting at the public library, and I think we should be very proud of the two students from ACHS and Napa High, Liliana Koresh and Allison Benchik, who gave a presentation to the public, and it was really, I was so proud of them. And I think that might kind of be it. Aside from, what else did I do? Oh yeah, we did have a committee meeting, a curriculum committee meeting. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you. So in March, on the 24th, I attended the CSBA Legislative Committee meeting, where we made some recommendations on supporting or opposing bills. On April 4th, I attended a little piece of the NCOE meeting. On the 7th, I met with CSBA staff around onboarding new delegate assembly members and making improvements to that process. On the 11th, I attended coffee with the superintendent at MBLA. Also on the 11th, we had a special board meeting. And then also on the 11th, I was filmed at Vintage High School for a small segment at the State of the District presentation, which will happen later. And then on the 27th, I met with Communication Director Bordas to film a piece regarding strategic goal number 6. And that concludes my report. Our next item is H2, Board Representative Reports. H2A, that's the Special Education Community Advisory Committee. They did meet. It was on 4/17/23. My understanding is that Trustee Hart did attend that meeting. Hopefully she can give us a synopsis of what happened at the next meeting she attends. The next item is H2B, City of American Canyon Liaison Representatives.
We have not met.
H2C, City of Napa Liaison Representatives.
We have not met.
H2D, Town of Yountville Liaison Representatives.
We have not met.
And then we are now on to H3, Superintendent and Executive Staff.
Thank you, President Gracia. Good evening, NVUSD trustees, staff, and community. I'd like to kick off tonight's superintendent report with an expression of gratitude and joy about an experience I had earlier today. I had the opportunity to observe and listen as a selected group of high school students engaged with the administrators and teachers participating on our Ethnic Studies Committee. One of them was Anita Diaz, who you just met, one of our Napa High students that were celebrated. She was absolutely just as amazing as she was tonight in the boardroom. She was amazing in the space with the administration. The students, other students along Anita, provided constructive feedback on the ethnic study course design. They advocated for ensuring that the course was experiential and filled with opportunities to authentically apply their learning, as opposed to just reading out of a traditional textbook. They also advocated for the importance of creating a nurturing, safe space where students will feel comfortable and confident in the learning community as they express themselves in their discussions about identity, race, and culture. I was overjoyed to observe how our staff are leveraging student voice as we implement these large-scale policy, programming, and curriculum decisions. I also want to recognize, as some of the trustees before me have, Assistant Superintendent Andrew Jennings, Director Monica Reddy, and Kelly Miller, one of our teachers on special assignment, for delivering the outstanding presentations to the Napa and American Canyon communities regarding the new graduation requirements and giving parents insight into the new ethnic studies and health courses that will be implemented for all of our current seventh grade students when they arrive to their respective high schools as ninth graders. I have so much to report since it's been a few weeks since we had our last board meeting, but I've conducted several school visits since our last board meeting, but I'm just going to focus on the most recent ones. And opposed to getting the breath, I'd like to do a deep dive into some depth around those visits to really honor some of the amazing teaching and learning and educational experiences that our staff are providing at many of our schools. Last week, I was at Canyon Oaks Elementary, where I spent a substantial amount of time observing in primary classrooms with Principal Vasquez, and I saw strategic and intentional early literacy lessons. They were very impressive. Students in kindergarten, first grade, and second grade were deeply engaged in reading and writing lessons with their teachers. It is no surprise that Canyon Oaks demonstrates positive progress on some of our local assessments, given the quality of the early literacy instruction I observed in the classrooms that day. So thank you to the Canyon Oaks staff. I also want to thank Principal Zali Zickman for a fantastic visit at Vichy Elementary. The highlight of that visit was centered around the high degree of collaboration happening across the grade levels for differentiated math instruction at Vichy. As you all know, as schools get smaller due to declining enrollment, combination grade level classrooms become more common. I was so happy to observe how teachers at Vichy are collaborating and sharing students across classrooms in order to differentiate their math instruction based on targeted grade level standards. So thank you to the efforts of the Vichy teachers and staff. The Northwood Eagles also hosted me last week. It was very affirming to observe the consistency in math practices across the grade levels there as well. Teachers and students are consistently implementing number corner, math games, and direct instruction as suggested in the Bridges curriculum. In addition, I really enjoyed visiting the special day classes on the Northwood campus with Principal Flint. I visited those same classrooms earlier in the year, and it was so inspiring to observe the progress students have made in adopting a routine, building a strong sense of community, and most importantly, building their academic skills. I also visited Shear School, which is the site of one of our K-8 pilots. So that's always great to observe as that program gets developed and implemented. Thank you to Principal Gardner to providing me insights into how how his parent liaison, Alejandra Herrera, and the Family Resource Center staff there are working together very collaboratively to engage our Spanish-speaking parents within the school community in very unique and powerful ways. Before I conclude my report with a short video focused on the last visit of the series at Phillips Magnet Elementary School, I want to remind everyone that on Thursday, May 18th, President Gracia was hard at work producing videos for this event, that on Thursday, May 18th at 9 a.m., we will be hosting our annual State of the District event. This year, it will be at Vintage High School. Some selected staff, parents, and community members have been invited to attend in person, but please note that the event will be available to others via an online live stream. If you can't join us live, that's okay. There will be an archived video available for viewing as well. I also want to take a moment to just let everyone know that I will not be here at the upcoming May 11th board meeting. It's the first board meeting I will be missing in the 5 years that I've served as superintendent here in NVUSD. It's for an excellent reason. I've been invited to participate in a selective superintendent forum to discuss statewide policy issues impacting California public schools. The session is in San Diego and it requires my full engagement and participation. So I'm excited to announce that Assistant Superintendent Dana Page will be seated here at the dais in my absence, which creates a great opportunity for capacity building within our executive team. I'm appreciative of the board's support of my engagement in forums such as this one, and I'm honored to represent NVUSD and the voices of other mid-sized districts in California facing many of the same challenges that we are. So no pressure, Assistant Superintendent Page. I'm looking forward also, just a big shout out to attending the ACHS theater production Newsies this Friday, and I'm sure I'll have a great report at an upcoming board meeting. So now back to the school visits. Lastly, thanks to Principal Julie Jones, Miss Howard, and Miss Ellison for an exciting visit at Phillips Magnet Elementary School, really focused on the enrichment opportunities that we're offering to the students there at Phillips. I loved learning about the enrichment opportunities that the students are being provided through the robust garden programming and leadership class and program that's being implemented there. A video or picture is always worth 1,000 words. So instead of me talking about this last visit, I want to share the video of the Phillips leadership class that does a weekly broadcast. I did not know this, so check it out. About school news every week. They produce it alongside a regular podcast that's on Spotify called Getting Good. I didn't know that either. I got to do a cameo appearance during my visit. So let the video roll, Miss Green. And if you want to check out their broadcast or podcast, please visit the Phillips Magnet Elementary School website, where you can find direct links to the amazing work these students are producing.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Companions. I'm Karen, and I am Emily. Here are the top stories for this week. It has been so great to see so many outside in the beautiful sunshine.
And even better that our sports trolley is up and running.
Please remember to follow the basic rules.
Only people with their card can check out equipment.
Be leaders who are thoughtful and responsible, and return your equipment each recess.
And if the day is super windy, we won't be checking out the frisbees.
Next up is our weekly Quiet Zone report.
We have seen some really great improvements in many classes in the Quiet Zone.
Miss V's class even earned 2 Flying Eagles this week.
And I saw some awesome lines in both kindergartner and 3rd grade.
This week's winner are...
Great work, everyone. We want to be leaders who work hard and develop strong skills.
Now it's time to see who this week's cool leaders are.
Be sure to come by room 23 to get your prize.
As you know, this April we are celebrating all of the leaders here at Phillips Elementary.
We are proud to have both neurotypical and neurodivergent learners at Phillips.
To quote Tepper Gronin, a famous leader with an artistic, the world needs every type of brain.
So let's be sure to develop strong learning habits and finish the year stronger than we have started.
That's right. One thing all learners have in common, we have to work at becoming better leaders and learners and leaders.
Last week we were visited by a very special guest.
Dr. Mercetti, our school superintendent, stopped by to see what was happening at Phillips.
She got to see all of amazing learning that is happening on our campus.
Let's take a look back and see what happened last week. That's it for this week. Remember, leaders don't just watch history. They make it happen and
Keep learning and keep leading. All right. Well, thank you for that extra time. I'm super proud of those kids at Phillips, so I had to share. All right, we'll proceed with staff reports and we'll start with Assistant Superintendent Dana Page, who oversees the Human Resources Division.
Thank you. Good evening, President Gracia, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Massetti. I'd like to begin my comments tonight by highlighting the many new hires the board has and will be taking action on tonight. The management appointments announced earlier and the other certificated and classified positions reflected in the personnel document collectively contain 50 new hires and promotions. There are a tremendous number of hours that go into each one of these hires, including the obvious recruitment activities like advertising, screening, interviewing, making offers, and onboarding. And there is also a lot of collaboration with the hiring managers, business services, human resources, and you may not think of also all the behind the scenes things like verifying the budget behind the position, reviewing job descriptions, and inputting all the new employee data into our payroll system. So I just want to take the opportunity to thank the HR, business services, and instructional teams for their diligence and hard work, as well as all the hiring managers and interview panelists, such as certificated and classified staff and parents who have given their time to help select the best candidates. We are not done hiring yet, but we're making great progress to ensure a talented and diverse workforce in place for the 23-24 school year. While staffing is coming together well, we still need to prepare for possible persistent vacancies because of the tight applicant market that we, along with other school districts, are currently facing. And I have the opportunity, similarly last week, to advocate with our legislators up in Sacramento, some of our local legislators, to advocate for SB 765, which is a bill that would suspend the sitting out period, as Trustee Reiser mentioned, and the compensation cap on certificated retirees. So if this passed, it would allow teachers who just retired to return faster and for longer to help us cover unfilled positions during these challenging staffing times. I was very happy to share how this important legislation would benefit our students and have high hopes that it will pass for next school year. Finally, one of our NVUSD Teachers of the Year finalists was selected as Napa County Teacher of the Year. Napa Junction fourth grade teacher Caitlin Nesbitt earned this recognition for her top-notch implementation of research-based and data-driven instructional strategies, which she delivers in an atmosphere of caring and connectedness in her classroom. Caitlin is a perfect example of the power of combining high expectations with high support. We're so proud and look forward to celebrating with all of our Teacher of the Year finalists and classified employees of the year at Napa County Office of Ed on May 24th. Thank you, and this concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Page. Next, we'll have Assistant Superintendent Andrew Jennings, who oversees the Instructional Services Division.
Good evening, President Gracia, Board Trustees, Dr. Massetti, and the NVUSD community. On the personnel document tonight for your approval is the appointment of 3 of the 4 community schools program administrators who will support the implementation of the California Community Schools model at McPherson, Phillips, Shear, and Snow next year. I want to congratulate Melissa Phillips, Jessica Di Gregorio, and Lupe Martinez Ramirez, who were selected for these essential positions. I also want to recognize the selection of Roxana Plancarte as the Student Wellness and Support Coordinator starting next school year. She will oversee our community schools in addition to our wellness programs. As evident in board priority number 3 and strategic plan goal number 1, NVUSD is committed to closing the opportunity gap and improving literacy outcomes for all students. Last week, elementary classrooms across NVUSD started to receive their new classroom libraries. At the elementary literacy board study session in November, we shared that all K-5 classrooms would receive updated classroom libraries to ensure that all students have access to high-quality literature in the classroom as well as in the school libraries. Extensive research has shown that students who have immediate and ongoing access to engaging books in their classrooms exhibit higher reading achievement, better comprehension, and an increased vocabulary. Classroom libraries will provide this increased access to content-aligned, high-quality books while students continue to have access to even broader selection of books in the school library. We are also providing take-home book bags so students have increased access to books at home as well. At the secondary level, middle and high school staff and students engaged in career readiness, real-world learning during the month of March, a key priority of the NVUSD Strategic Plan Goal 1, as well as LCAP Goal 1. For the first time ever, NVUSD brought a virtual career day live to every 9th through 12th grade classroom district-wide. Students attended 6 webinars, one each period, focused on 6 different industries, including hospitality, business, trade, STEM, healthcare, and arts and entertainment, featuring over 30 local employers. On March 23rd, Director Reddy, myself, and Principal Uribe were joined by Unidos Middle School dual immersion teachers, Miguel Calderon and Evelyn Vega, and had the opportunity to present about the opening of Unidos Middle School at the California Association of Bilingual Educators, or CABE, in Long Beach. We presented to over 100 bilingual educators from all over the state of California. And stay tuned, as later this evening, Director Reddy and several secondary teachers who are waiting very patiently will be presenting a recommendation for the new socialist curriculum at the middle and high school level. And just an aside, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and our wellness centers are partnering with Mentis to provide a variety of activities and events that shine a light on the importance of mental health. On May 7th, Napa High will be hosting their Wellness Center open house, and on May 23rd, Vintage will be doing the same. We hope that you will be able to join us. And lastly, the highlight of the last few weeks was the gathering of student representatives from each high school as part of our LCAP Student Advisory Council. During the first session, students learned the basics of the NVUSD Local Control Accountability Plan. They were very excited about that and developed questions that they used to hold focus groups at their own school sites with students. Today, students gathered and shared the information that they collected from their school focus groups and identified some trends. During our next session, students will prioritize the themes from the focus groups and develop possible solutions to address key challenges. I want to thank Director Reddy, who has partnered in this work with me, and Director Christopherson, Principals Ainsworth, Hutchinson, Dev, and Cisneros, who assisted with the sessions, and Director of Transportation, Binion, who arranged transportation for American high school students to the Ed Center. So we are really appreciative of that, so we didn't leave them out. And I look forward to sharing with you the results of our LCAP Student Council's work during the LCAP presentation in June. And thank you, that concludes my report.
Great, thank you. Next, we have Assistant Superintendent Mike Pearson, who oversees operational services.
Good evening, President Gracia, NVUSD Board of Education trustees, Dr. Musetti, and members of the community. Before I begin, I just want to thank the trustees and Dr. Musetti for allowing me to go to Vietnam. That's why I was not here at the last board meeting. For those of you who have never been to Vietnam, I had never been to Vietnam. It was not on my bucket list. It should be on all of your bucket lists. It's an amazing place, and it was really a great experience. I actually was there for a wedding. And it was a 1,000-person wedding, and that was the highlight of the trip, obviously, but there were so many other highlights of the trip. And anybody wants to know about it, I'm happy to share my experience and give you recommendations, because you should put Vietnam on your bucket list. And I will begin now by thanking you for that, for providing me the opportunity to say that, but also to provide you an update of operational services. And tonight, my comments will focus on strategic plan goal number 4. In food service, the April harvest of the month items have been strawberries and asparagus. Taste testing event was held in late March at Napa Junction on these items, but they chose to do just strawberries. And they had a great opportunity to sample different strawberries. For May, the harvest of the month items are cherries and lettuce, probably a little more palatable. New lunch items for the 23-24 school year have been piloted at a few select sites with rave reviews from the students. A vegetarian Philly cheesesteak sandwich was offered at Vintage High School, while a new fresh pizza bread was been sampled at Donaldson Way, American Canyon Middle School, and American Canyon High School. In addition, the food service staff has also partnered with a local chef. His name is Chef Chu, to participate in a project to design local plant-based menu items. On the financial side, the food service department was awarded over $500,000 to the 2022 Supply Chain Assistance Fund. And this money is spent on minimally processed food. Examples would include produce items, raw beef and chicken, milk, cheese, yogurt, beans, frozen fruits, and vegetables. And lastly, May 5th, Friday, May 5th, which is next Friday, everybody, put this down. It's School Lunch Hero Day. School Lunch Hero Day. Okay, you got to wear your costume on this one too. Please consider acknowledging all of our amazing and super hardworking employees, food service employees on Friday, May 5th at either the central kitchen or at your individual school site. In maintenance and operations, Director of Operations Gloria Aguirre and her custodial staff are getting ready for the end of the school year at all of our sites and the transition from the 22-23 school year to the summer programming happening at almost every single school site during June and July. And meanwhile, Director of Maintenance and Grounds Albert D'Souza is making sure the campuses and other district sites are ready for promotion and graduation ceremonies. In the maintenance department, May is also the month where we begin our annual visitation of every school site by performing the fit assessment in anticipation of the 2023 school accountability report card. In transportation, Director of Transportation Justin Binion and his staff recently celebrated School Bus Driver Appreciation Week. That was last week. During the week, they celebrated employees who have maintained an accident-free driving record while employed with NVUSD. And I'm pleased to announce that two of our drivers, Mark Meyer and Jill Pena, have 26 years of accident-free driving here in NVUSD. And Mark is actually in that picture at the back. Yeah. Finally, I wanted to let the trustees know that last summer, Operational Services hosted 3 student interns, specifically 2 individuals in maintenance and 1 individual in transportation. This is super cool. One of the interns has been hired in the maintenance department as the groundskeeper from Valley Oak High School. And another individual is now a part-time bus driver for us, and he's still a student at Napa High School right now. We are very excited about this summer internship program that resulted in hiring of 2 students who now have the opportunity to have a meaningful and long-lasting career in NVUSD, which is exactly one of the outcomes we wanted to have. So yeah, so we're really excited about possibly interns this upcoming year. And that concludes my operational report at this point.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Pearson. And next we have Assistant Superintendent Rob Manguala, who oversees business services.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to update the board and the community. During spring break, the directors of data and assessment, technology, enrollment, and fiscal services and I attended the California School Business Officials Conference. We attended a number of sessions where we learned a great deal. Director Peter Aboud and I also had the opportunity to present about our district's work around data-driven decision-making, which went very well and was well received. We've also applied to present on a similar topic at the upcoming CSBA conference, so which is a little luck, and hopefully we'll be presenting something similar. I think it's in San Francisco next year. The data and assessment team is focused on supporting sites with state testing. Next week, the final STAR testing window opens, and we look forward to sharing the results with you at the June board meeting. The technology team is examining network security very closely. We just attended the RSA conference in San Francisco this week. The RSA conference, if you're not familiar with it, it's the largest network security conference in the world. It has an attendance of greater than 40,000 attendees, so very, very large conference. So while the conference is very focused on the private sector, we learned a great deal about network security, and you'll see some suggestions coming up at future board meeting about some changes and some things that we'll be putting in place. The Enrollment Center staff hosted a table at Kids Day at the Oxbow Commons on April 1st. The table featured interactive games for kids, and they had the opportunity to meet lots of community members and students. The Enrollment Center is busy getting ready for the 23-24 school year, processing registrations for resident and out-of-district students. The team is also getting ready for 23-24 by meeting with stakeholder groups to collect feedback about the enrollment process. They have met with office managers, registrars, high school counselors, and liaisons. Enrollment staff has been engaged in feedback collection to better support newcomer families also. A satellite enrollment location in American Canyon will be set up in May and June. We anticipate to be out there for at least a couple days both months, and we'll see what it looks like going forward. The business office continues to prepare for the 23-24 budget. There's a great deal of uncertainty surrounding what the budget proposal will look like. Right now, there's a little bit of living in fantasy land. Much of this was caused by the extension of the April tax deadline typically April is a big month to project what revenues will look like in the upcoming year. So revenues continue to come in very significantly lower than projected. Overall revenues are $5 billion less than projected, and Prop 98, which applies specifically to education, is $2 billion less. So there's quite a bit of a disconnect. This will again make funding the 8.22% COLA, which they just announced, difficult but not impossible. And so one of the proposals that's on the board right now, the Senate actually just submitted their budget proposal, which again there'll be lots of debate going back and forth between the House and the Senate and the governor. They're thinking that they're going to try and fully fund it through a variety of tax increases, but there's going to be a lot of work between now and we actually adopt a budget. I do anticipate that the budget that we actually adopted in June, it will not have the 8% COLA in there. It'll be closer to 6%. And then we'll just adjust the budget once we know, but very likely it'll look like what happened last year, where the actual budget that we adopt isn't 100% representative of the final budget. The final budget probably we won't know until September probably. So there'll be a placeholder budget, which will be adopted so that everyone still gets paid in the House and the Senate, but then they'll end up adjusting the budget afterwards. This concludes my report.
Okay, that moves us on to item 4, facilities and bond program update.
Yep. Thank you, President Gracia. I'm going to give you the facilities report today. Our bond program manager, Kelly Jorgensen with Van Pelt Construction Services. They are celebrating 25 years of being a company. So they're having a great celebration tonight. So with school planning construction staff and I, along with the chair for Measure H Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, met with prospective Citizens Bond Oversight Committee applicants for Measure A2 on Friday, April 21st at American Canyon High School. 4 very excited and eager applicants participated in the 1-hour workshop where SBC staff and the chair of Measure H, who is Barb Franco, explained the role and responsibilities of being a CBOC member. My staff and I have more meetings scheduled with other prospective applicants for Measure A2 CBOC and plan to bring recommendations for board approval at the May 11th board meeting. Later this evening, Barb Franco, along with Ron Sartori, who are on our Measure H Bond Oversight Committee, will be presenting the Measure H 21-22 annual report. School planning and construction staff is also planning work this summer on transitional kindergarten classrooms due to anticipated increase in TK enrollment throughout the school district. Work during the summer will include new carpeting, linoleum, possibly improving the lighting in classrooms, interior paint, a light bathroom refresh in classrooms that have a restroom that is in need of some updating, and new TK furniture for classrooms. Since NVUSD is growing our TK program, this is a great opportunity for us to use our developer fee money. And that concludes my report for tonight. Thank you.
Okay, and it is now 9 o'clock, so it is time for our first break. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Yeah, we can do that when we come back.
So they can go home.
Yeah. Okay, we are back. We're now on I, approval of consent agenda. Background information on these items is provided to the board prior to the meeting. A common motion takes action without discussion on roll call vote unless discussion of an item or items is requested by board members.
I'll motion to approve.
Second.
First by trustee Chu, second by trustee Riser. Ms. Morales, can we get a roll call vote on this?
Yes. Trustee Gracia,
Aye.
trustee Water,
Aye.
trustee Ricer,
Aye.
trustee Shu,
Aye.
trustee Jankowicz,
Aye.
trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morales. All right.
President Gracia,
Yes.
as we move into the next section, may we please pull J3B and 4A and move them to the front of this section? Presentation discussions.
Okay, I have a motion by trustee Jankowicz.
I'll second.
And a second by trustee Gonzalez Mares. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Motion
you.
passes. All right, we're on to item 3B, introduction of secondary history, social science core instruction material adoption recommendation.
For students tomorrow really appreciates it. So good evening, President Gracia, Board of Trustees, Dr. Musetti. Tonight we have a team from secondary to present the history and social studies instructional materials recommendation. If I could have the slides loaded, please.
So please bear with us a moment while we fix a technical issue.
Thank you to our tech team. If you could move the slide forward, please. So this evening, we will go through how the history social science recommendation aligns to our goals for the district and our board priorities. We'll provide context around our current adoption and the requirements from the state of California, give you insights into the evaluation criteria that were created by the staff, which is called the district lens, and then hear from our staff regarding the pilot process and the recommendation and their final rationale for this recommendation. Next slide, please. So the adoption or the recommendation of this adoption aligns to strategic plan goal number 1, college and career readiness. Having core curriculum is foundational to supporting our students with core content, knowledge, and skills. Additionally, the subject matter of history, social science really speaks to the responsive, engaging pedagogy. We heard that today to emphasize that from our youth and our youth advisory, really speaking to the importance of dialogue and discussion and engagement with the curriculum. Next slide, please. Additionally, as you'll hear this evening regarding the last adoption, part of board priority number 2, our focus on high quality tier 1 instruction is really grounded in curriculum adoptions. And so you'll see within the context of this, the importance of having this high quality curriculum, especially as we look to subject matter like history, social science, where students are often engaged in critical reading. And we know, as you heard from the literacy board study session, that focus on literacy being a team sport, it's important for our history, social science staff to have that curriculum in order to support the language comprehension skills that we know our students really need across the district at this time. Next slide, please.
So our current context, our last history social science adoption happened for middle school and high school in 2004. And so we are incredibly excited tonight to put forward a recommendation since that was the last time. At that time, we allowed school sites to adopt various curricular resources. And so the proposal tonight that has a similar recommendation across our middle schools and a similar recommendation across our high schools really allows us to adopt a curriculum that we can sustain across those levels. Additionally, with the focus on improving and strengthening our dual language immersion programs at the middle school level and the high school level, the current curriculum recommendation this evening really makes that more robust for our DLI students who are at those grade levels. So we're excited to present this recommendation to you with a particular focus on bilingualism and biliteracy, knowing how much it will support our students and staff. Next slide, please. So the California Department of Education, our State Board of Education, has recommendations in this process. One is that we have a representative district committee who you'll hear from tonight, that we have criteria for evaluating these resources that are grounded in our state educational code, as well as our board policy. You'll also see that we have to look at the curriculum and ensure that it meets our diverse student learner needs. And so looking specifically at our multilingual learners, looking at our students who need additional support through their individual education plans, and also ensuring that it aligns to our content standards. Last but certainly not least, we do look at that, and this is important for our students as they look at history and social science, that we review it against the social content outlined by the state. And all those come together as we put together evaluation criteria. And then last but certainly not least, which you'll hear about tonight, is that we go through a pilot of these instructional materials, and our staff across every single history and social science classroom has done an extensive job. It is no small feat to do that because they're transitioning curriculum every period, which you'll hear about, and trying to learn that curriculum and then also see, does it meet the criteria? So I have to give a huge shout out to our history, social science, secondary folks for the work that they've done this year in their classrooms, continuing to make sure that students are learning while also piloting these instructional materials. Next slide, please. So in addition to that criteria, we put together a steering committee. This committee started last spring, so in spring of 2022. Some of the folks here with us tonight have been a part of that process from the very beginning. You'll see a picture of our staff getting trained on the materials during that time. And so we had a district lead, which you'll hear from tonight. That is assistant principal at Redwood Middle School, Kate Gugger, who has a wealth of background in instructional teaching and learning at both the high school and the middle school level, as well as she is joined by Elizabeth Silva, our Vintage High School history social science teacher, Amelia Brown, Redwood Middle School history social science and ELD teacher, and Stephanie Trott, Redwood Middle School history social science teacher. In addition to the state board requirements, we also look at our local requirements as well. So you'll see that we've reviewed our Williams Act to ensure that our students have access to these materials, our core content standards, and our history social science framework. We've considered our strategic plan, which you'll see directly called out in our district lens, the master plan for multilingual learners as we ensure access for all of our students, our board annual priorities, our assessment scores, looking specifically to our STAR rating, and then priority standards and proficiency scales, which we have not yet developed in history, but look forward to after we have a core curriculum, and then programs that are impacted. And so our students that are in our dual language immersion program are immersed in history, social science. And so this was a particular aspect of our district lens that we needed to consider in this recommendation. Next slide, please. And now I will turn it over to Kate Gugger, who is fully immersed in leading this work. And I just want to take a moment to thank her for that.
Hi, good evening, Board of Trustees. Thank you so much for your time tonight, and thank you for switching our place in the agenda. We do appreciate that. And we're really happy to be here and share the news of this work that I'd like to start by saying it involved every single history social studies teacher across the district. It meant a lot to us to have everybody involved so that all the voices were represented. It did make for a lot of focus on our process to make sure that we were keeping tight with our collection of data and following up on an excellent process to make sure that all of those voices were represented as best as we could manage. What I'd like to start by doing is if technology can show the district lens, that's a hot link right there on the top. I'd like to walk us a little bit through how we designed this to be our guiding document, which led to our ability to have deep conversations that were specific and again aligned to district data and district goals. So
Ms. Green,
Ashley-
can you click on the district lens link for us?
Oh, sure. Okay, yeah. That's the one you're trying to avoid though. So while we're waiting on that one, I will start by saying that on the left-hand column, we have 9 elements. These elements were drawn from, as Monica mentioned already, from existing strategic goals and district goals. And also U.S. history, history social studies framework, and of course, content standards. Those elements on the left column, I would call them our guideposts. The middle column is really where the meat starts on the document, where the committee developed criteria based on each of these elements to give us a roadmap for what we're looking for. If we were looking for the supportive, effective, consistent implementation of current state standards, what would that look like ultimately in the field, and how would we find that in the curriculum? So the criteria really was our roadmap for our conversations and a pivotal part of our work together. We can go to the next slide, or we can look at this. Okay. So as you see the notes column on the right-hand side, this is where after each pilot, we gathered our data.
Can I ask Ms. Green to
Make it
zoom
bigger.
in and make that a lot bigger?
It's a concept is what it is right now. There we go.
Thank you.
Okay. So we went back to this after each and every pilot, studied the criteria against the feedback, organized, discussed, and you'll see an example of that coming up next. So if we can go to the next slide, that would be great. It will be after this. All right. So the pilot process started with a publisher's fair to choose the 3 publishers that we would want to review. Our group of 5 here represent leading publishers, and they've been around for a while. They are also adopted at the state level for middle schools. So we know that all of those could have been adopted by the middle schools. We used a rating scale against the district lens on a 4-point scale to decide of these 5, which of them met the criteria. We couldn't tell how well they were going to operate in the field, but at least we could see that they met the criteria after having each publisher present to us. So out of that conversation, next slide, please. We chose these 3 publishers. I'm going to turn this over to Elizabeth Silva from Vintage. Oh, I'm going to look up.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Next slide. Whoever's doing that. Ashley. Thank you. All right. So good evening, by the way, and thank you again, Robin. So as Kate mentioned on the left, that was the criteria that those were the 9 elements that we were looking at. And then the middle column was breaking down those 9 elements into the specific criteria that we would look for when we would pilot. What would it look like in the classroom? How would the students react to the material? How would we know if they were learning? So those were the criteria that we were looking for. And then each pilot was a 6-week process because we really wanted to try to do 1 complete unit per pilot. And so at the end of the 6 weeks, we would come together as a whole department, and I think all school sites did the same. And we would go through all 9 elements, looking at all that criteria in the middle. And then the green and the red reflect green being positive things that we saw in the curriculum meeting that criteria. And then the red were just some kind of red flags, so to speak, or things that might not have been so positive in the curriculum in conjunction with that, those criteria. Oh, next slide. I always forget. And so that was the order. We did these 3 pilots. Savas was the first 6 weeks. So starting like pretty much a week into school. And then we did TCI second leading up to Christmas break. And then we did McGraw-Hill when we came back in January. And then, so
I'm sorry, can you go back one slide? Thank you. So at the end of each 6 weeks, we would do that same process for each of the pilots.
All right, you're going to go ahead 2 slides. Thank you. I wanted to add, so this accordion process that she described led us to the final step of ranking. So we started with a rating of each of the publishers to choose the 3. We went to a process of collecting the raw feedback from the teachers in the field that she just described and to put it on the district lens. And finally, not too long ago, the steering committee met to rank the choices of the 3 publishers. At that time, we agreed that it would be helpful and useful to get the rankings from all of the people involved in the pilot as well, as another data point and as another way to have a conversation about where we've ended up. This is really too big. So at the end of all of this, the committee deliberated for 6 hours. It was a 3-hour meeting that turned into a 4-hour meeting that then turned into another 2 hours the next morning at our March 10th PD day. And we were graciously given the time that morning to continue the conversations, both at the middle and the high school levels. The conversations, again, were deep and they were focused on the district lens as our guiding document, but we had at our hands the opinions of the steering committee, their personal experience, their rankings, and we had the experience of the teachers through a Google form that had been sent out as a survey or a poll. It was made clear to them that this was not a vote. This was not our process for choosing the curriculum, but rather more data for our team. And the team used that data wisely to ultimately come to a consensus on that Monday morning, just in time for us to present the determination to them at the March 10th PD day. So I'd want to emphasize that again, ultimately the most important evaluation of the process is the interaction between the steering committee and the evaluation tool that we've talked about here. And knowing fully that it was grounded in state requirements, district goals, priorities, and plans. And so we feel really confident that we did a thorough and complete job, that the voices of our teachers who, again, I'd like to emphasize, had to train and develop units 3 new times throughout a school year. That is a big, heavy lift for our teachers. I didn't hear a whole lot of complaining. I didn't hear about that from our steering committee. So I'd like to just double up on saying we've got a great team of social studies teachers out there, no matter what Dr. Ainsworth might have said. So I tucked that one away, didn't I? I did. Okay. I'm going to pass it back to the teachers to talk about the rationale for their choices, starting with the middle school teachers. If you can advance the slide, I'd like to have Amelia and Stephanie come up.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. So this was the curriculum that we as middle school teachers recommend that you approve, and it's impact through McGraw-Hill. The curriculum meets the needs of all learners. For example, there are multiple Lexile levels within this curriculum. There's specific lesson plans just for English learners, which provide us with great opportunity to scaffold for all our students. There's a text-to-speech function, which supports our students with special needs. And as Kate mentioned earlier, there's an authentic translation of the text as opposed to a direct translation of the text, which is really important for our Spanish speakers. And then I think that's. Oh, and there's strong essential questions that guide inquiry.
So what does this mean? So this new resource is going to provide 3 paths, which is great for new teachers. I'm confused. Thank you. I apologize. So our new materials are going to support direct instruction, but allow teachers to be flexible and creative. I'm really excited about these new engaging resources. I love to do projects, but I'm excited about the inquiry piece and the direct piece as well. They have excellent visuals and primary source materials, and it allows for reading levels to be changed by students, which is fantastic. Provides a variety of differentiated elements with a focus on mastery. It contains many supplemental resources that provide a variety of cultural perspectives and open-ended prompts. So overall, it provides multiple opportunities for developing historical thinking skills.
One other reason why we love this curriculum is that it has a strong support for literacy. So we know that we're looking at our reading data, and we know that our middle school students still continue to need support with their reading. And this curriculum has direct support for that. As I mentioned, support for language learners, and it engages students in swirl, speaking, writing, reading, and listening.
Next slide, please. I also just want to say, not only did the teachers have to like learn these new pilots, but the students, we had to train them every time too on how to use all the different. So the students were amazing as well. And also I want to say thank you to Monica and Kate and whoever decided that the entire social studies group in middle and high school would be able to participate. Because I know when this first came up, you know, we came back to the schools and teachers were like, well, who gets to do it in 10th grade and who gets to do it in 11th grade? And when it was, no, we're all doing it, it just was a really good feeling, and it just helped create a lot more buy-in too. The high schools recommend TCI. The rationale is it provides a large variety of resources and types of activities, along with engaging primary source materials, a wide range of inquiry-based approaches to engage students in deep learning. Students utilize an inquiry approach from the beginning of each chapter. Resources can be modified to provide students with main ideas to allow MLLs better access to content and ability to participate meaningfully. Resources and activities are designed to support language development. Since the last adoption cycle, high school teachers have become increasingly adept at using digital resources to enhance the teaching and learning experience. Matched with these resources, TCI offers a broad variety of interactive activities and projects that allow high school students to engage in academic speaking and listening, critical thinking, and active collaboration, all of which help them prepare for college, career, and beyond. TCI asks students to bring their whole authentic selves through experiential activities, which support equity, inclusion, and diversity.
All right, next slide, please. So thank you for taking the time to hear our process, as it was very important for us to produce, you know, a strong recommendation tonight. But what I'd like to finish with is really the heart for the work. I came across this amazing quote that I'd like to read out for you. A high quality curriculum creates a classroom culture that nurtures students' leadership, agency, and ownership of their learning, and encourages critical analysis of the world. Such curriculum gives us a way to put equity into action day in and day out. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Before we talk to the board, I was going to ask Ms. Green, is there any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
Trustee Chu?
I was just going to say, this is a tremendous amount of work, and thank you so much for having gone through this and to show us your process. I had the pleasure of listening to this at our curriculum meeting, and immediately after I went to a rising sixth grader orientation at ACMS, where the old books were sitting out on the table, and you can see when the parents go in, they're like, oh, you know, this is what our kids are going into. And then when the teachers announced that, oh, we're getting new curriculum next year, and everybody was like, well, okay, not everybody, all the parents were like, yay. And you know, I can't really speak for the students who were in the room. They were probably like, oh my gosh, whatever. But parents were very happy to see that update. I know I spoke with the teachers afterwards, and they were very happy to see the new curriculum coming into their classrooms. So thank you very much. And, you know, as a parent of a rising sixth grader and a rising 10th grader, I think we will be experiencing all of this new curriculum next year. So looking forward to all the fruitions of your work. Thank you.
And Trustee Riser?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for the creating a process that has such integrity and that really centers the teacher's voice, because the teachers are the ones that know best what is going to work in their classrooms with their students. I love that all the teachers were involved because that is just, and I remember you didn't mention this in this presentation, but in the committee, you said that there even was it was a tie, and that's why you extended the meeting rather than just making kind of an executive decision as a team. And that just speaks to your commitment to your colleagues. And I think that sets us up for success and a great amount of buy-in. So thank you so much. And to all of the teachers for all of that work. The teachers here, and then all the teachers that did that rotation through 3 curricula. I know well how complicated and all of the bells and whistles that are different, and the coding systems and all of the differences across the curricula that are minor but require a shift. So that's a big ask and a big lift, and thank you all.
Trustee Jankowicz?
What you just explained to me, and I'm sorry that I don't know this, you said what you liked when you were referencing English learners is that it was authentic versus direct translation. Can you just clarify that for me?
So an authentic translation, it's not, there's nothing that's like Google Translate would be a direct translation. An authentic translation means that it was written directly in Spanish.
Great. Makes perfect sense. Thank you very much. And I ditto both of what my fellow.
Trustee Water?
Well, I too sat in at the committee meeting, and I'm really glad that you've got all the teachers involved because, you know, believe it or not, when something new is rolled out, even though it's a lot of work, if one group of teachers is picked to do the rollout, the other teachers feel, well, maybe, you know, they didn't think I was capable of it or something like that. And so I think this is a compliment to all the teachers, giving them a stake in it. And good work. I'm happy about this. And one of these days, I'll tell you, when I was in 1983, which was 40 years ago, I served on a history textbook review committee for the state of California. One of the more hilarious experiences of my life, but I will not tell you now.
Trustee Gonzalez-Mars?
Yeah, I think with the topic of world history and US history, a lot has happened in the last 19 years. So just I think. And so I think it is really important just from that basis to update our materials. There is a lot in terms of what has occurred in our society, and there's a lot of more intentionality in making sure that all diverse groups are represented in the materials. So I'm looking forward to the outcomes of all of this. I'm sure there was good conversations happening in the space and in the room among our teachers with this very specific topic. And just ditto to everything in terms of the process and all of that. And just congratulating on that effort because it's not easy, and to pilot 3 times and all of that. So just that's a lot of time and dedication and the heart that goes into that. So thank you for showing an overall cariño to creating a curriculum that reflects our students, and to keep that going. So appreciate that.
I just had a question. So I noticed that we're recommending 2 different publishers at the secondary level. And so I was wondering, is there, or was there consideration given to using the same publisher at both levels, or why was the difference decided upon?
So at the beginning of the adoption, we did encourage a consistent 612 recommendation, but didn't mandate it. And I'll have Kate speak a little bit to how the outcome of that came about.
This was one of the conversations that Monica and I did have. And there's a lot to be had when you have the same materials, the same publisher. There's some consistency across the board, of course, and some continuity between the middles and the highs. But at the end of the day, I think the more critical issue was to put books in the hands of teachers and students that would be used and valued. And so that became more of the intention. Sure, we would have liked that out the gate, but I was really thankful that we were given that flexibility, because I think now we don't have to, force it down anybody. We've got everybody kind of choosing for themselves.
Was there something that advantaged one over the other at both spots?
At the end of the process where we were deciding, I'd be happy to let the teachers know.
So I think I mentioned it a little bit earlier about the support for literacy. And I know that we continue to need that support for high school also, but I think that we needed that more so in middle school than maybe in high school, and TCI lends itself. I'll let you talk to TCI, but that's why we wanted to have McGraw-Hill or Impact for middle school.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, but we saw that when we were doing some of the TCI activities, they were very engaging, and we found that once the engagement was there, then if I said, here's an article you're going to read, or here's, some prompts that we're going to discuss, they were more likely to engage with reading and writing if they were engaged with the content first. And so we just found that TCI lended itself better to that for our age group. It just, especially TCI had a lot of visual components as well. And as we know with social media and the age of our kids, that visual is really impactful for them. So again, just coupled with the engaging activities and then the visual nature, we felt like the kids were more engaged in what we saw. It's been used for years.
Middle school was that's what's being used now, correct? And okay.
It depends on the site.
Yeah.
So when we adopted in 2004, we had different materials being used at different high schools, and we had different materials being used at different middle schools. So some middle schools had TCI and some middle schools had, I believe, McGraw-Hill. I think additionally, one of the considerations when we came back to the decision and Kate and I were speaking, I think the unique aspect are so our science adoption, there's two different adoptions between middle and high school. Similarly, you have that between you'll have it with history, social science, potentially middle and high school. There's a gap. It's unlike math where we see that movement through for years. Students do not take history, social science in ninth grade. And so that transition point that you'd like to see some similarities maybe in text structure or language or how it's set up, they naturally have a gap year between taking eighth grade and then engaging again in world history. And so as we came to that decision point to really decide, do we push forward trying to make 612 the most important factor, or do we recognize there is that gap and students can transition over that year and re-engage in world history, similar to how many of our students do between eighth grade and then taking their biology or their chemistry course, depending when that happens.
Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate the presentation tonight. We do have public comment, Norma Ortiz. Ms. Ortiz, I just want to caution you that in the future, you do need to submit your request for public comment before the item has been called on the agenda. We can't have already called public comment and then receive your card. So just in the future, please be aware of that.
Oh, thank you. In terms of I also had that question, now to comment in terms of the authentic translation.
I'd like to see, I mean, it's interesting how that might tie in with the textbook item. In terms of guiding documents on data, on district data, where it says supports the effective, consistent implementation of current state standards in ELA, math, ELT, science, and history and social studies. I'm not sure if that brings the component of English language learner data. And also in terms of the comment that was made where ELL reading direct support for that. In what way? It would be interesting to kind of have more information on that. And how has the publisher integrated interactive language supports and Lexile levels? I'm looking at one of the slides and it's kind of difficult to understand. So I'm in the slide where it says guiding documents and district data. But also there was another slide around there, but it would be nice to have like a little bit more clarity on those items in that particular slide. I myself like McGraw-Hill Education. I think they're very thorough. And basically that's that. And also one more thing. Perhaps it would be a good idea to have some of the textbooks available at the high school level, like as a reference for, because this is a pilot process for students and whoever parents might be interested in taking a look at them. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to item 4, school planning and construction. Item 4A, SPC 10.2-23, presentation of Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, Measure H Annual Report for fiscal year 21-22, presented by CBOC Chairperson Barb Franco.
President Gracia and trustees, tonight I am pleased and submit to you. Do I need to start over? President Gracia, I'll say that again, and trustees. I am excited tonight to be able to introduce to you our new chair for the Measure H Citizen Bond Oversight Committee, Barb Franco, and the co-chair, Ron Sartori. They will be presenting tonight the annual report that we do on a regular basis, or once a year, actually, shouldn't say regular basis. And this report is for the 21-22 school year. So to remind you, we are trying our best to get this done in a timely manner, but this is a report from a year or so ago. All right. So on that note, I will turn it over to Barb and Ron, and they'll take you through a short presentation and then answer any questions afterwards. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us here tonight. It's interesting, when I left the house this evening to come to the board meeting, I said to my husband, don't wait up for me. And I kind of reflected for a minute and I thought, gosh, I think the last time I said that to him was when I was the principal at Napa High. And that was in June of 2015. So, yeah, so Victor is, I said, just don't wait, hon. So with that, I would like to thank you for having us. And this is my first attempt at understanding this annual report. So bear with me as I move through this. I have practiced. Ron Sartori is the co-chair, and we do, I'm the chairperson, he's the co-chair. We've worked very closely since he came on board with Measure H, and I have really appreciated working with him. He enthusiastically wanted to come tonight, and I said, okay. And so I kind of think this is maybe his first board meeting, and what a great experience for him. And so with that, I would like to start, and hopefully I can get through this and Mike will be okay with my presentation. with that, we are hang on. We're a small group of people who oversee the Measure H school bond. And it is a intense time for us, as many of the people who have served on the committee are not familiar with the language of school construction nor the finances of school construction. So there's a pretty steep learning curve. And I've been fortunate since I've been on the committee. You can see here the different people who have been members. Some of those names are very familiar to you, and I was able to learn a lot from the people on the committee while I was sort of trying to figure out. I always was on the school side of a bond. I understood what was going to be happening at my school site. I didn't necessarily always understand all the rest of it. And now I've been able to learn a lot. You can see the past members that have served on the Measure H committee, and then the district staff who do an amazing job helping take sometimes very complicated financial information and being able to get it to a place where people like me and other members of the community can understand how we are financing our schools through the school bond. Next slide. So a little refresher for everyone in the room. This Measure H was passed in June of 2016. It was a $269 million bond, which is just an astronomical amount when we think about it. It was divided, it's fallen into two categories: the construction side of the house, which are the projects, and technology. The community voted on being able to improve the campuses in terms of earthquake repairs or earthquake, what's the word? Seismic upgrades, the fire safety, plumbing, and you're going to hear a little bit more about technology and what's happening with the technology upgrades in this later in the report. All of the general obligation bonds have been sold to date. Currently, at this point, there is 263 million plus monies that are encumbered, and I'll be talking to you a little bit more about that. And the 2021 implementation plan update is also included in this, and I'll be talking to you a little bit more about that. And obviously, we'll do my best to answer any questions. Next slide, please. So who are we and what do we do? We are, like we are a group of people who apply to be members of the Bond Oversight Committee, and the board ultimately approves us to participate in this wonderful experience. And we have oversight and obligations through ed code and obligations through other statutes in California in terms of informing the public about what it is that is going on. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the kinds of all of the kinds of things that have changed, certainly about how we inform the public since I've been on the committee. We review expenditures, what is being done at each of the construction sites, and then we write an annual report. And that is, I believe you have that as an attachment, and this is sort of a summary of that. And in working on that report, the committee tries to make it easy for you to understand. And that's why we move to graphs and circle graphs to sort of just give you the general idea of what it looks like. And so that was easier for me to understand. So, like I said, what we're doing today is the report, the annual report to you. So next slide, please. So there were two groups of us, two different groups of the Measure H committee that worked on this report. Some people went out in November, and then new people came in at our January meeting. And so when we form the committee, there are specific buckets that we're supposed to fill with varying people from the committee. So for example, Richard Beck represented the business community. I came on as a member at large. So we try to fill these are required categories. And so we try to fill those. All right. So this is where we were in November. And next slide. I think there's a slide that yes, thank you. And this is where we are now. We are a small group of 5 people. We continue to reach out to the community through the Measure H website to get more people interested in being on the committee. And we have not yet been able to fulfill each of the requirements of the committee. However, the council that sits with us at all of our meetings says that's fine. We're not violating anything, but we continue as long as you're continuing to actively look for members, and we are, and you're going to see that on the website here in a second. Next slide, please. So one of the things that happened, as with everything else, we moved into virtual meetings pretty much throughout the whole the end of 2020 school year, or the end of the 2020 school year, and then all of 2021. And we returned to in-person meetings in September 2022 of just this school year. And so we felt it was important to include this in the report, just in terms of a record of what we were doing as a committee when we were not able to meet in person. So on the right side of this slide, you can see this is when you open up the Measure H website or link on the district's website. We now have all of our meeting documents, our meeting schedules. We have videos. You can see in the box, the red box at the top, we're always looking for members to be on the Bond Oversight Committee. And anybody in the community can go to this, they can click on it, and they can see our meeting agendas, the minutes, it'll link them into the financial hub. So the transition we've made in terms of transparency and people in the community being able to know exactly what it is that their money is being spent on, it all lives on the district's website. And it's been, when we were doing a campaigning for Measure A1, it was so wonderful to be able to tell people, go to the district's website. Everything is there. Anything you want to know is on the district's website in terms of bond projects for Measure H and what we were intending to do with Measure A1. So that felt really good to me. And I know Mr. Pearson appreciated that too. We were out and about a lot in the community. And so this has been a real big improvement in terms of communication and informing the public. And that's sort of how I'm circling back to that, because everything now lives on this website. And it really, I think, provides for kind of an overuse of a term, maximum transparency in terms of everything's there. So that feels really nice. Next slide, please. So again, what we do, I know that you know this, but it's informing the public through what we're doing tonight, through the publishing of our meetings, through all of the information on the district's website, through being able to, people in the community being able to email the school planning and construction office. So that we feel very confident about the work that we're doing in that regard. The district uses a company called Key Analytics that helps us interpret and provides all of the financials to us on the committee in a way that we can understand it. It's, I think, something that was a real improvement for me. We were not using Key Analytics when I first started on the Measure H committee, and it was not always easy to understand the financials. And now it's they can find out anything and report. They can provide any report that anybody in the community wants, and so that feels really good. And that's been a real improvement for us. The annual report does two things. It gives the committee an opportunity to provide a statement that we believe that we are in alignment and have met the requirements of item A under section 3.3. The second thing it does is it gives us, this is part of informing the public. We give you a summary of all the proceedings that have happened in our meetings for the fiscal year. And so those are the two pieces of the annual report. Okay. Next slide, please. So this is just a little snapshot for you to see what our community has done to support us in terms of school bond money since 1998. And it's a pretty astounding look at the kind of support that we've had since the first bond. I assume this was the first bond passed, Mike, in Measure Y in 1998. And the accumulation of funds to where we sit when we had the passage of Measure H in 2016 of 570, just a little over $570 million this community has provided to support our schools. I think over time, that's a real celebration. But I think that's a celebration. Next slide, please. So this is a document, another document that is also on the Measure H website. It shows to the community. Nikki, can you make that a little bit bigger or no? I don't know. I don't know if Kelly has it set up to do that or not. Okay. I don't know if we have it set in the PowerPoint to do that or not. What this is, it's the categories of the building and construction projects that have taken place, and it is updated annually. Is that right? That's right. Right, Mike, where are you? Yeah, updated annually. And when we worked with the American Canyon people last week, we showed them the beginning of what their implementation plan is going to look like. And it'll very much follow this same model in terms of what the projects are at American Canyon. So this is a summary of expenses, a summary of projects that have been done. And this information, again, is located on the district's website, which has not previously been done. So we feel really good about that. Next slide, please. So what have we spent the money on, and what project categories has the money fallen into? So this is sort of a this graph of the previous slide and where the money was spent. A tremendous amount of money. The bulk of the money went into the modernization and new facilities. That is snow. Snow, Napa Junction, River School, and the work at American Canyon Middle School. The safety and fencing. So, like I said, the majority of the money is spent at the school sites, which is what we want. The safety and fencing, you've all seen that going up. There's some funds that went to the management of the bond, and that would be Van Pelt Construction. Technology now is going to move to the forefront a little bit in terms of what's happening with the bond. We're getting ready to spend down the project side of the bond, the construction side, and that should be spent out probably by the end of this year. Then the bulk of the oversight for the committee will be on technology, and there's about $9 million that we will be overseeing, that Rob Mangala's office is working on spending with technology. I attended a presentation that Rob did. Robin was actually there on what the future technology needs are for the district and how the Measure H funds are going to be spent. So that'll be the next piece that we will be looking at. Next slide, please. In terms of how the funds were spent over the course of the Measure H bond, you can see the funds were approved. The bond passed in June of 2016. Some construction work happened during the 16-17 school year, And you can see through this that the bulk of the work was done during 2018-19 because it takes a while to get things going, right? And so you can see how it kind of peaked, and 1920 was at a very high rate. And that is a typo there. It should be 2020, 21, and that got past me. So, and Kelly, so sorry for that error. And then how it's kind of tapered off and where we're at here now at 21, 22, moving into 22, 23. So that's sort of just a snapshot of what that looks like. Next slide, please. One of the things we're required to do is have an independent auditor report, look at our financials. And they do two things in the audit. They do a financial audit and they do a performance audit. The audit was presented to the Measure H committee on March 8th and approved at that point. They approved the audit results and or audit report, and it was approved and accepted by the committee on March 8th. Next slide, please. One of the things that we did differently in this report is you're going to, we have a lot of comments and thoughts that come from people. And the committee, and along with Mr. Pearson, Mike has been very committed to responding to people and giving them an answer. Like if they ask a question about something, why are you doing this? What's up with this? Why is this? And we had a lot of people on the committee that asked a lot of questions. And so what Mike took on was responding to those questions and really digging down and finding out what the concerns were of people on the Bond Oversight Committee. And so that resulted in, next slide, please, comments that have all been researched, a tremendous amount of time spent, because what Mike's interest was being able to include these in the report and being able to say that the comments have been cleared, that they've met, the committee is satisfied with the district's response. And I think you can imagine how much time went into that. And we are, Mike, we're really proud to be able to present this. It's something new that has not been included in the report before. And you can see all the status, whether it says that the comments are closed. This was also approved by the committee and approved and to be included in the report. So again, they had, these comments went back to the committee. Are you satisfied with the district's response? Are you satisfied? And these people were sometimes not satisfied, and they'd have to go back. Mike and Kelly would go back and work through it, and we finally arrived at this landing spot, and that feels really good. So I think that's a real shout out and high level of appreciation to Mike and his team for being able to really respond to the community. And again, this is just, I think, a great representation of the kind of quality of work and the integrity of work that the Measure H committee works towards. Next slide, please. So what have we done and where have we been over the last 6 years? There's a lot has happened in our community. People should have so much to be proud of. We built 4 schools. I don't know how many districts or district boards have been able to celebrate 4 new campuses during their tenure. That's tremendous. Modernized kitchens, put roofs on 5 campuses, replaced the HVAC and all of the other varying things that have happened. American Canyon Middle School, I think, has become a real gem. I was just stunned when I went on the tour of American Canyon Middle School. The same with Napa Junction, the opening at Napa Junction, Unidos, the work that was done at Willow Snow School. So everything, we just have a tremendous amount of pride in the work that has been done with Measure H. Next slide. So lastly, I did share with you, there were 2 items the committee had to do. We have to summarize that we believe that we are in compliance with the items that we need to be in compliance with regards to the state of California. This is that statement from the Bond Oversight Committee and also the report that you have in your file. I want, next slide, please, Nikki, thank you. So there's, like I said, there's so many places now in the community where people can get information, all the little snapshots of the website that I showed you. And this information is how people in the community can become involved. And this same model, along with what American Canyon is interested in doing, will hopefully they'll follow the same kinds of things that learn from some of the things that we've learned here in Napa. Next slide, please. And with that, these 3 gentlemen, I really wanted to say a word. This Kevin Brooks was the chair that when I joined the committee. The middle person is Skip Keyser, and the gentleman on the right is Richard Beck. They asked a lot of questions. I learned a lot from them sitting and listening. I was afraid to even say a word for about the first 3 years. But I really want to specifically thank these 3 gentlemen for their diligence and the questions that they asked us. And they definitely, these 3 gentlemen, along with other people that have passed through the Measure H committee, really have done their due diligence in terms of supporting the work of the community and Measure H. With that, any questions? I'll do my best.
Before we take questions, let me ask quickly.
Yeah.
Ms. Green, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
Thank you. Your microphone.
I love the addition of the feedback sheet, just knowing what the concerns were. That's data that can be kept, year after year. So we have an understanding when we put out material of what concerns or observations might be if they're kind of generic enough. Thank you. And I know you gave accolades to the 3 gentlemen just retired, but I think the same accolades and level of commitment is being exhibited here. So thank you very much for your work.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much.
I would also just like to say, I really did appreciate the extra focus that you guys put on improving the transparency and community access to information. I thought that was really great to see. And it looks like you had a pretty big emphasis on that. So I know that was an extra task and work, but it is really helpful. I think that's a really great improvement.
Thank you very much. And
thank you for that.
have a nice evening.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And maybe just don't bow to the pressure I know that Mr. Pearson was putting on you to have very tiny fonts so it all fits on one slide.
And you were a smart woman to tell your husband what you told him before you left.
Now I would like to move that we extend the meeting till 2. Can I get a second?
I will not do that. Give me something reasonable.
1:30 then.
I'm still not comfortable. How about we go midnight?
Can I get a second?
I'll get it. I'll second.
First by myself, second by trustee Chu. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay,
I did not say that.
we are now moving back to item J1, General Services. J1A, Introduction to California School Board Association's Recommended Policy Updates, March 2023.
Yes, so this is just the introduction to the latest round of the CSBA policy updates for March. I want to thank trustees Reiser and Gonzalez Mares, who did the full preliminary review in the policy committee. I know trustee Hart did not attend, so I know this is very, as you know, reviewing these is a tremendous amount of volume of work. So I appreciate the two of you hunkering down in that policy meeting and going through all of the policies. So, yep, we'll bring them forth for action at the subsequent meeting.
Do trustees have any questions or comments? No. Ms. Green, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to J2, Business Services, J2A, District Solar Energy and NEM 2.0 presentation.
Ms. Green, can you please bring up the presentation? And so since you said we're staying till 1:30, I want to make sure that I do my part and contribute to a very long presentation. I'll need some water. So just going to say.
I'm not.
I can add some slides. I only have 5, but you know. Okay. I've had some.
Get to work, Mr. Mangwala.
We're just hoping that we never have to get there. So 1:30.
All right, let me jump right in. Next slide, please. So let me give you a little background. So a couple things. So the district has current solar in the district, and what we're looking at right now is we're examining our solar, and you'll see some item tonight that I'm going to ask you to approve. So just very briefly, again, some of our current solar, but the district has a combination of solar where it's solar that we own, and it's also solar that we essentially lease through a power purchasing agreement. A power purchasing agreement allows the district to purchase electricity at a lower rate. It's essentially a long-term lease. We did not have to provide the initial funds, and what that does is it locks us in to a lower rate in terms of electricity. So instead of buying it from PG&E at a higher rate or being subject to inflationary pressures, we get to lock it in for a period of time. And so some of the other advantages include no maintenance costs, no funds to borrow. Some districts sometimes use bond funds. And it also, what it does is it protects the district general fund from potential utility cost increases. And so some of what we'll be doing in terms of next steps, so an analysis of our current solar will be completed over the next year. It's about a year-long process to really do something that's in depth. But there will be an initial analysis and presentation made at the May Facilities and Technology Committee meeting. Next slide. So in terms of future solar energy, so solar energy does give you the opportunity to generate between 80 and 85% of electricity used by site. Currently, the model is really dependent on selling excess energy back to PG&E, and that model really is disappearing. And so PG&E in the past purchased about they paid you 2/3 essentially of retail costs. So the district was able to essentially get credits for the energy that's generated. But going forward, that will change. And so there's a term that's being used, like it's called NEM 2.0 to NEM 3.0. So NEM 2.0 applies to applications submitted by April 14th. You'll see in this presentation that we did manage to get some applications submitted to kind of lock in and grandfather in being able to sell excess energy back to PG&E. Going forward, it's not that solar energy is going to disappear. If anything, it's actually going to get stronger. There's just some things that have to be figured out in the industry. One of the things that will have to happen is the cost of batteries will need to come down. And so the model of relying on PG&E to make it profitable, that's essentially disappearing for new solar applications. Same thing in your household. So if you haven't installed solar yet, what it'll look like is you'll have to include batteries for storage to make it economical, because PG&E, if you want to sell electricity back on the grid, they're buying it back for pennies on the dollar. So you will no longer have the opportunity to sell electricity back at a retail rate. It'll be at a wholesale rate. Next slide, please. So net metering 2.0. So the district did hire SiteLogic to analyze our sites and potential solar energy usage. And so again, I want to thank them for their partnership. They did literally walk all of our sites with Mike's team to figure out where we could initially put some solar and see if it makes sense. And so we did walk sites. Tonight, you'll see a contract to pay them for that work. It'll take about a year again to go through and figure out if we're actually going to install solar on those sites. But we wanted to get those applications in to make sure that we guarantee ourselves to be able to sell electricity back to PG&E should we decide to move forward. Again, so you'll see an item for that. Another item that you'll see is a resolution to pursue an interest-free loan. Again, not a promise that we're going to do it, but it just gives us the ability to apply for an interest-free loan if we decide to put in LED lighting and potentially more car chargers. So CBOs love interest-free loans. So if we have the ability to put in borrow money at 0%, my favorite thing to do, right? So especially if we can reduce our electricity costs. So one of the most economical ways to do that is by changing out LED lighting. So I'm sure you've seen that in your own house. You definitely get a change almost immediately by switching to LED lighting. Next slide, please. And so there are definitely some challenges ahead in terms of electricity rates. We know that, right now, California is pushing pretty hard to convert from gas powered cars to electric cars. There's going to be a big dependence on solar, but in the background, we're seeing the electricity rates are going up dramatically. Next slide. So we spend about $1.5 million annually on electricity costs. But again, big increases are coming. So 22% increase has already been approved for 23, 24, and 25. PG&E has actually requested, I don't know if you noticed, but there's an overlap. So they requested an additional 16% in 24, 25, and 26. So electricity costs are going through the roof. They're exceptionally expensive. And so at a personal level, I'm like, oh, I wish I got solar earlier, a little late now. But at the district level, again, because we submitted those applications, we have the ability to sell electricity back to PG&E should we move forward. Next slide. So items, and again, the intention of this slide is just to provide a little bit of clarity for the board. So there is a contract to pay SiteLogic for their analysis and submitting the applications for us. And then also the resolution to apply for a 0% loan for LED lighting and car chargers. And with that, I'm open to questions.
Okay, before we take questions from the board, Ms. Green, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
Thank you. More questions? I have just one then. You mentioned.
Oh, I was just going to say it's a smart move.
You mentioned that we would take out this loan potentially for 0%. What would we be using then to repay said loan?
Savings from electricity. So in order to qualify for the 0% loan, you need to be able to show that you're not incurring costs to your general fund.
Looking that we don't. Oh, yep.
One
Trustee
question.
Gonzalez-Morris.
Yeah, I coincidentally was reading an article about solar panels and the encouragement of places like Walmart. If they put solar panels, it reduces the heat that comes from the pavement and just like it's overall very environmental. I'm guessing that's part of the year-long process to look at all of our facilities, our parking lots and roofs and
yeah, so SiteLogic has done an initial walkthrough, and in most instances, they have the place that they can put these solar panels to maximize the production or harvesting of the solar energy is as on our playgrounds areas. And it's targeting specifically mainly, targeting most of it as elementary school sites. Some of them would be our parking lots, but we also want to protect the aesthetics of our campuses and sort of our curb appeal. So we talked with them about that too. But the majority of them would be potentially put on playgrounds too. Then a byproduct would be that we would be able to offer shade and things like that for students around there. But there's more to work to be followed because it's all got to work within the system of our playgrounds and things like that. But you will see, some of the initial concepts did take into consideration that, and we talked about providing shade for students and staff on campuses throughout the district.
Looks like no one else. I think that will close this topic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're now on to J2B, STAR Assessment Tools Implementation.
All righty. Okay. Okay. Good evening, President Gracia, trustees, Dr. Musetti. Later on in tonight's agenda, you will see an action item to renew our contract with Renaissance Learning for the STAR assessments. In support of this agenda item, we've prepared a summary of our implementation of STAR over the last 3 years. You may recall in the fall of 2020, the school board approved the purchase of STAR assessments. Prior to that school year, our district used the RI, or the reading inventory, and the MI, or the math inventory. But this was not consistently given to all grade levels, and the board's support of the STAR assessments moved us to a consistent K-12 assessment, which was especially critical for monitoring student learning as we navigated the COVID pandemic. The STAR assessments are quick 20-minute assessments and provide a number of data points that I've shared with the board over the last 3 years, including scaled scores, percentile ranks, and the STAR growth percentile, or SGP. As a reminder, the STAR assessment suite includes STAR early literacy, STAR reading, and STAR math, and provides all 3 of these assessments in both English and Spanish. And the Spanish assessments are often used at our dual language immersion schools and by teachers of newcomers. STAR serves as our universal screener, which is a skills-based assessment given to all students to determine if they are at benchmark or not. And with the STAR assessments, students are categorized into 4 performance levels, ranging from above benchmark to students needing urgent intervention. Although STAR provides some granular data, a universal screener is not meant to determine precisely which skills students need support with, which is why additional assessments are sometimes needed to find out exactly where students have gaps in their learning and which intervention supports are the most appropriate. Here we outline which grade levels take which assessments. Students in grades kindergarten through 2 take the STAR early literacy test until their reading abilities develop enough that they can be reliably assessed with STAR reading. Typically, this transition happens in 2nd grade, and students in grades 3 through 12 take STAR reading, while students in grades 1 through 12 take the STAR math test. Okay. Over the last 3 years, we have spent a substantial amount of time building systems around STAR. STAR data is used by teachers to guide their instruction and provides principals with school-wide data on literacy and math. STAR has also become an integral part of our MTSS system. STAR data is regularly examined by MTSS teams and serves as a key data point in determining which students require academic intervention and is used to figure out the effectiveness of those interventions. We've also built out robust Aries analytics and Tableau dashboards, which monitor STAR data, and our school SIPSs and LCAP include STAR data as a key metric. The data is also shared with the board and community on a regular basis and serves as a highly predictive indicator of performance on the CASP. And you might recall that the percentage of students who were at standard met or exceeded on the CASP last spring was only off from the spring STAR data by 1.1% in ELA and 2.3% in math. Okay. We also use the STAR data to meet the criterion of a locally determined assessment for reclassification of our multilingual learners, and is used to support secondary course placements, and our case managers will often use it to establish goals for students with IEPs. Okay. So in summary, our organization is very invested in this tool. I also wanted to share that since the start of the school year, a total of 71,981 STAR tests have been given. And with an enrollment of 16,194 as of earlier this week, this is an average of at least 4.4 tests per student. And next week, the spring STAR window will open up. So we're expecting that number to increase from 4.4 to closer to 5.4, which is 2.4 tests greater than the 3 that we would expect of each student from the 3 screening windows. So this illustrates that we have teachers across the system who are finding value in the STAR test and are voluntarily giving it to students outside of the required windows that we require at the district level. We also have we've also consistently celebrated a participation rate of over 95%. And so, for example, I show here the winter 2023 participation rate. I know it's hard to read. Mike Pearson may have told me to make the slide, but any bar that you see beyond that green line represents a school that has exceeded the 95% participation rate. So essentially every school has met that with the exception of independent studies. And as you can imagine, it's a little bit more challenging for them since students are not attending in person every day consistently like they might be in a traditional classroom environment. But generally speaking, a very high participation rate. And this is for math from the winter, same idea, very high participation rate. So everyone is essentially on board with this. And with that, I will open it up for questions and comments.
Questions? Okay, Trustee Jankowicz.
I will learn 7 years into this. I am not, nor have I ever been a teacher, but in my professional life, data collection, the relevance of stats in appropriate and meaningful context were critical to analysis, execution, and impact in my work. It is no different here. Each presentation over all these years, you have delivered the data needed, but what I genuinely appreciate is how clearly each presentation is given context to the data, allowed us to understand the data as a tool that supports teachers and benefits students. So yes, on the contract, and thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I had a couple of questions. Were there any pain points for users of the STAR software now that we've had some time to experience it?
Thank you for that question. I would say at the beginning, when we first adopted STAR in the fall of 2020, there were obviously a lot of pain points just given the pandemic. But the data and assessment team has spent a lot of time supporting sites with documentation, picking up the phone. I was just talking to my team about this the other day. From the fall of 2020 to now is a huge difference in terms of the comfort with the tool. We get very few phone calls, very few issues. And if there are any issues, our team is very easily able to give it. So when we say it's a short 20-minute assessment, it really is a quick and easy thing for teachers to give. And our team is always on standby to support.
Did you feel it necessary at all to investigate other options, or we're pretty happy with what we got?
I would say we're pretty happy with what we have. Considering it's a universal screener and it's really meant to kind of determine whether or not a kid is at benchmark, this tool does exactly that. But there's always a need for additional assessments and additional ways to diagnose where kids are at and where they might need some additional support. So it does great as a universal screener. As you can see, it's built into all of our systems, but there's always more layers that are needed to accurately assess our kids.
And I really like today's data point that said that our end users of teachers are really appreciating this tool and are using it more than is required by a significant margin.
Absolutely.
That was impressive to learn. So that speaks pretty highly to me of the value they see in this tool. Ms. Green, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
Okay, well, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
I'd like to say something. For me, the value of testing is using it as a guide to help teachers figure out what students need to be taught. And I just think that the results of our tests are, and I'm speaking nationally, are used to punish schools, punish teachers. There's a history there, and punish students. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a learning tool. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. All right, that moves us on to J3, instructional services. J3A, introduction of supplementary instruction material adoption for elementary school.
Good evening. So we're introducing the supplemental material to support teachers in introducing all 26 letters of the alphabet. At the outset of the school year, the letters of the alphabet are introduced throughout the entire school year. But we found that there is research that shows us that if we provide students with this boost at the beginning of the school year, they're able to more readily access the instruction that's provided on letter names and sounds throughout the school year. Thank you.
Ms. Green, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
Okay. Trustees, do we have comments or questions on this item? Seeing none, thank you for this presentation. All right. We are on to the action items. We do consent. Yeah, on to item K, action items. Item K1, general services. Item K1A, adoption of revised Napa Valley Unified School District Governance Handbook.
Move to approve.
Second.
First by, yes, trustee Chu, a second by trustee Gonzalez Mars. Ms. Green, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion passes.
I just make a comment. I just want to recognize the work of the school board. I don't think there's a lot of school boards doing the degree of refinement that the trustees here to my left are engaging in terms of their governance practices. And I'm just really impressed and proud and grateful that I work for you as a school board. And I want to thank all of you for sitting in the 2-day session with our governance consultant, Luann Rivera, in order to refine those practices. And I want to thank President Gracia and Trustee Reiser, who did the drafting to incorporate those practices into the newly revised version. And then I want to thank all the individual board members who then engaged in their own individual review post the work of their 2 colleagues. So it's just a lot of labor to continue to develop and refine a governance system and then to codify it. And so I just want to take a moment to pause and appreciate that and let the public know that all of our board members sign this governance handbook, essentially agreeing to all the practices, protocols, and training commitments that are nested within them. So thank you for your hard work.
Thank you. Okay, item K1B, adoption of board policy 3100 budget.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
First by trustee Chu, second by trustee Jankowicz. Ms. Green, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
Discussion? I just want to highlight then the importance of setting our strategic reserve that this item does at 10%. This is certainly a floor and not a ceiling. It's very clear that a much larger reserve is important and necessary, but by setting this at least 10%, I think that is an important fiscal policy that will help us moving forward. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item K1C, removal of BPAR 4218.1, dismissal, suspension, disciplinary action merit system.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
First by trustee Chu, second by trustee Jankowicz. Ms. Green, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. K2, business services. K2A, resolution 23-31, resolution ratifying boundary map and textual description of the NVUSD School Facilities Improvement District Number 2, American Canyon area.
Move to approve.
Second.
First by trustee Chu, second by trustee Gonzalez Maras. Ms. Green, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
Right. Ms. Morales, may I please have a roll call vote on this item?
Yes, trustee Gracia,
Aye.
trustee Water,
Aye.
trustee Ricer,
Aye.
trustee Shu,
Aye.
trustee Jankowicz,
Aye.
trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morales. Item 2B, resolution 23-32 to allow application for LED lighting and car chargers.
Move to approve. Second.
First by trustee Chu, second by trustee Riser. Ms. Green, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
Thank you. Ms. Morales, can I get another roll call vote, please, on this item?
Yes, trustee Gracia,
Aye.
trustee Water,
Aye.
trustee Ricer,
Aye.
trustee Shu,
Aye.
trustee Jankowicz,
Aye.
trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morales. All right, 2C, replacement of the public address system at Donaldson Way Elementary and American Canyon Middle Schools.
Move to approve. Second.
First by trustee Chu, second by trustee Riser. Ms. Green, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. K2D, contract with SiteLog IQ for net metering 2.0 application.
Move to approve. Second.
First by trustee Riser, second by trustee Chu. Ms. Green, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. K2E, purchase of incident IQ inventory and incident management software.
Move to approve. Second.
First by trustee Riser, second by trustee Chu. Ms. Green, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 2F, purchase of Renaissance Star License through 26-27.
Move to approve. I'll second.
First by trustee Riser, second by trustee Chu. Ms. Green, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Action item 3, human resources, K3A, resolution 23-29, declaring May 8th through the 12th Employee Appreciation Week.
Move to approve. Second.
First by trustee Chu, second by trustee Riser. Ms. Green, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
Ms. Morales, may I please get a roll call vote on this item?
Yes, trustee Gracia,
Aye.
trustee Water,
Aye.
trustee Ricer,
Aye.
trustee Shu,
Aye.
trustee Jankowicz,
Aye.
trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morales. Item K3B, University of Massachusetts Global Supervised Internship Teacher Agreement.
Move to approve. Second.
First by trustee Chu, second by trustee Riser. Ms. Green, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 4, instructional services, K4A, resolution 23-30, voluntary desegregation plan 2023 through 2028.
Move to approve. Second.
First by trustee Riser, second by trustee Chu. Ms. Green, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
Thank you. Ms. Morales, can I please have a roll call vote on this item?
Yes, trustee Gracia,
Aye.
trustee Water,
Aye.
Trustee Ricer,
Aye.
trustee Shu,
Aye.
trustee Jankowicz,
Aye.
trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morales. Item K4B, School Plan for Student Achievement Addendum.
Move to approve.
Second.
First by trustee Chu, second by trustee Riser. Ms. Green, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. K5, School Planning and Construction, K5A, SPC number 14.1-23, Indoor and Outdoor Educational Specifications for NVUSD.
Move to approve.
Second.
First by trustee Chu, second by trustee Riser. Ms. Green, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. On to item L, informational. Item L1, general services. Item L1A, curriculum and student support committee. There was a meeting. Is there any comment or questions?
Well, the minutes are attached to the report. I had a great time at the meeting. If any of you have any questions, I think they'll be answered in the report.
Ms. Green, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
Okay. Item L1B, facilities and technology. There is no minutes for that one. Item L1C, finance committee did not meet. L1D, there are minutes attached. Any comments or questions from trustees? Ms. Green, is there any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
Thank you. Item 2, business services, L2A, enrollment report. Trustees, any questions or comments on this item? Okay, Ms. Green, any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
All right. Item M, additional suggestions and comments from board members and superintendent. Okay, so I have one. Student board member Gomez was not here tonight. And I was missing his update that he usually gives about activities at the library. So I looked it up and I don't know what he would have chosen to highlight, but I figured I'd pick one and mention something. So on May 4th, may the 4th be with you, they will have a Star Wars origami night. So, you know, just FYI.
Well, I have to say their Peeps dioramas were pretty funny. I really like those.
All right. Moving on then to item N, future agenda items. Okay, seeing none. Item O, adjournment. I will move to adjourn.
Second.
First by myself, second by trustee Chu. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Meeting is adjourned at 10:50.